What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
4 UC. Chapter 76 Senju's Wood Style 2/5. Chapter 76. Boom. Miyamoto's figure suddenly turned into a puff of smoke. Shadow clone. Conan frowned, opened his mouth to speak, and was vigilant around in case Miyamoto's sudden attack. Tendo Pain also turned his eyes, observing the surrounding situation. Crash. A pair of hands suddenly stretched out from the soil, and directly grabbed Tendo Pain's ankle, but the grab was empty, and Tendo Pain jumped into the air directly, holding both hands. Universal pull. Boom. Miyamoto's figure was directly pulled out from the ground by this strong gravitational force. Seeing Miyamoto's appearance, a black stick appeared in Tendo Pain's hand. With a flash of figure, he came to Miyamoto's face, holding the black stick directly pierced Miyamoto's eyebrows and pinned him to the ground. The moment it landed, more black sticks appeared in Tendo Pain's hands, and they were about to nail Miyamoto's, September 13th, limbs. Miyamoto, who was pierced, suddenly twisted, and then. Fire style. Clone blast. Click. Boom. In the smoke of the explosion, Tendo Pain's body was directly blown away, somersaulted in the air and then fell to the ground. Thorn. Lightning condensed, Miyamoto's figure appeared behind Tendo Pain's hands in seals, with a serious face. Water style explosive water shockwave. Crash. The huge water flow carried a mighty force and sent it towards the heavenly Tendo Pain. Facing Miyamoto's attack, Tendo Pain raised his hands, and a terrifying repulsion erupted. Shenluo Tianzheng. Under the action of huge repulsion, this huge water flow did not bring harm to Tendo Pain. Miyamoto's figure fell on the water, his eyes turned, and he looked around his body. Swish swish swish. A paper shuriken came from all directions, and it had already arrived in front of Miyamoto. Miyamoto turned his head and looked at Conan, and saw that Conan had already formed a seal on his hand. Ninja Law detonating talisman shuriken. Miyamoto's face was dignified, and his hands formed a mark and pressed on the water. Water style water curtain. When the water curtain enveloping Miyamoto's whole body rose from the water surface, the detonating charm shuriken that surrounded Miyamoto exploded directly. Boom. The water curtain was directly shattered by the power of the detonating talisman, and the terrifying power caused Miyamoto, who lived in it, to be shaken and slightly stiff. Swish. Tendo Pain's figure protruded into the smoke, and Rinnegan's dynamic vision above the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan accurately captured Miyamoto's frozen figure. Turning around, the steel-like right leg swept towards Miyamoto's head with great power. The state of stiffness was momentary, but when he recovered, it was over. Miyamoto's face was full of dignity, and he raised his hand in front of his head in a hurry. Boom. Miyamoto's figure flew out, quickly backed up on the water, and landed on the shore, stirring up dust. Ninja detonation talisman paper rain. The detonating talisman rained all over the sky, like grenade concentrated strikes, exploding non-stop at the place where Miyamoto fell. Swish. Tendo Pain and Conan stood together again and looked in Miyamoto's direction. 10 seconds later, the smoke and dust dispersed, revealing the scene inside. Miyamoto was lying in the pothole in miserable shape, motionless, apparently dead. Did you make it? Tendo Pain frowned, always feeling a little weird. Conan didn't answer, staring at Miyamoto's body for a few seconds, his expression changed. No. This is Shadow Clone. As if in response to Conan's words, Miyamoto in the pothole turned into a puff of smoke with a bang, and at the same time, a lightning-style chakra condensed behind them. On Miyamoto's body, the huge chakra is condensed, holding the chakra Tadao in his hand, at the moment when Conan and Tendo Pain turned their heads. Lightning-style lightning flow burning kill. Boom. On the surface of the water created by the blasting water wave, there was suddenly a terrifying thunder and lightning, centering on the chakra sword in Miyamoto's hand. He rushed directly to everything around him.
The unparalleled speed, the high-frequency current that devours everything, and everything that exists on the surface of the water or in the water is instantly scorched by the terrifying current.
However, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, under Miyamoto's sage mode, his eyes emitting golden light raised up and looked at Conan and Tendo Pain flying in the air. It's the first time I've been hit since I broke through cage level. Standing up and taking back the sword in his hand, Miyamoto looked at Tendo Pain and Conan. Scatter. Let the horses come here. Let's fight to our heart's content. Swish. Swish, swish. Both hands instantly completed seals and slapped 10 palms on the water. The water is close to the water edge. The S-level water style ninjutsu developed by second Hokage, a javelin compressed into ultimate, was pulled out of the water by Miyamoto, looked at Tendo Pain and Conan, and sacrificed directly. Crash. The moment the water javelin left his hand, a huge waterspout formed, blasting towards Conan and Tendo Pain. The two figures dodged in an instant, and Conan shot several spears at Miyamoto. Miyamoto's face remained unchanged, and his hands were sealed. It's not over yet. Go. Miyamoto folded his hands together, and the marks on his hands changed a bit. Originally, a waterspout was divided into two, and attacked towards the already scattered Tendo Pain and Conan. Originally, Conan planned to shoot at Miyamoto, but after seeing the change of Miyamoto's attack, his face changed, and he condensed all the paper to form a huge paper spear, which met Miyamoto's hard vortex water blade. Tendo Pain was even more simple and rude. While blocking the attack with a repelling force, his body fell to a wall, with seals on his hands. Universal pull. Under the action of gravity, a broken building came to the top of Miyamoto's head and fell directly. Looking up at the attack, Miyamoto's complexion changed slightly, his eyes flashed, a mark was formed on his hand, the chakra on his body condensed, and the terrifying force caused circles of ripples to erupt on the water surface. Wood-style birth of the tree realm. Rumble 3.0. After Miyamoto's voice fell, the ground broke open, and with Miyamoto at the center, huge trees germinated, took root and grew into big trees in just a few seconds.
Boom. A big tree grew up quickly and shattered the back of Miyamoto's building, holding Miyamoto to stand in front of Tendo Pain and Konan. In just a few seconds, a large forest centered on Miyamoto suddenly appeared in Rain Shinobi Village. The appearance of giant trees directly and indirectly destroyed many buildings in Rain Shinobi Village.
This is, from the beginning of the fight until now, Konan has always been quite ordinary. She is flying in the sky at the moment, and she is looking at the situation in front of her in disbelief. Wood style of the legendary Senju. Chapter 77 Shinruo Tianzheng 3/5. Chapter 77. Although the expression on his face didn't change much, Tendo Pain's tone was quite dignified, looking at the formed forest. I didn't expect that the wood style that Yuhi pacified the troubled times would reappear in your body. With such power, why don't you fight for world peace? The power of wood style, since it can pacify the troubled times, is enough to prove its strength. Even Uchiha Madara, who is cooperating with them now, was defeated by wood style of first Hokage. This kind of power is definitely a big help. The most important thing is that Senju Hashirama suppressed tailed beast with wood style back then. If this power is used to capture tailed beasts, it will be very convenient. Tendo Pain once again sent an invitation to Miyamoto. Standing on the branch of the big tree, when he heard such words, he couldn't help shaking his head. That peace is no different from death. Looking at Tendo Pain and Konan, the chakra surge on Miyamoto. It's my turn now. Are you ready? While speaking, a terrifying chakra erupted from Miyamoto's body. Under the control, the originally quiet woods turned into a murderous place full of murderous intentions in an instant. With the technique of birth from the tree world, all the trees formed are under the control of Miyamoto. If you want to show the level of wood style, birth from the tree world is a prerequisite skill. Boom. Huge logs kept killing Tendo Pain and Konan, and their attacks were all blocked by wood style. The seemingly endless wood style attacks, although not massive, but such an overwhelming attack, in the midst of the birth of the tree world, no matter how hard you struggle, the end is doomed. Hit the street, leaping and dodging non-stop, at the same time waved to cut off the attacking trees one by one. Tendo Pain was very annoyed, looking at the trees coming towards him again. Tendo Pain opened his hand. Shinruo Tianzheng. Boom. The huge repulsive force was much stronger than before. All of Miyamoto's attacks on Pain were blocked. With Tendo Pain as the center, everything around is destroyed by powerful repulsion, even Miyamoto's tree world is the same. After the attack of the destroyed wood style, Pain glanced at the ground that was shaking again. Without any hesitation, he jumped up and flew into the air.
Konan, on the other hand, had no problem using his air superiority against the vines that kept attacking him. Seeing Tendo Pain flying into the sky with repulsion, he came to Tendo Pain in an instant. What should we do now? The eyes are quite dignified. Miyamoto's wood style has too much home court advantage, and it is difficult for them to get close to Miyamoto.
Tendo Pain didn't say much, but opened his hand.
Destroy his wood style in one hit, and that's it. Seeing Pain's actions, the cabin's expression changed. Are you going to use that trick? That technique is too much of a burden on your body, and here. Pain raised his hand, expressionless. I can't use that trick. If you don't kill him today, it will be even harder to kill him in the future. Snapped. With both hands open, the terrifying chakra condensed, and the figure of Tendo Pain floated to the front, looking at Miyamoto. Yes, wood style is strong, but God, with bright eyes, chakra burst out. Shinruo Tianzheng. Buzz, silent vibration repulsion. From Pain's body, under his control, the terrifying repulsive force spread in all directions. Dig 3 feet. Miyamoto's tree world was born under this huge repulsive force, and it was also destroyed. This place suffered unprecedented heavy damage. Facing the invisible repulsive force approaching in a blink of an eye, Miyamoto's fairy face suddenly burst into light. Wood-style wooden golem jutsu. A huge arm stretched out from the big tree at Miyamoto's feet, clenching its fist, facing the oncoming repulsive circle. Boom. A punch hit the repulsive circle, and the terrifying power of this arm poured on the repulsive circle, which actually made the spread of the repulsive circle stagnate for a moment. And at this moment, a huge wooden golem was directly formed, and Miyamoto was now on top of the wooden golem, very small. Shinruo Tianzheng is not omnipotent, break it for me. On top of the wooden golem, Miyamoto shouted angrily, and the wooden golem retreated, fixed itself directly, and stepped on a huge hole in the ground. After freezing his figure, Wooden Golem's other hand also punched towards the repulsive circle. Boom! Terrifying power, the two forces erupted, and the oscillating waves sent everything flying. Click! Under the influence of Wooden Golem's force, the repulsive circle, which was firm, persisted for a while before breaking out with a broken sound.
The repulsive circle can't bear such a force. The Wooden Golem under the urging of Miyamoto, the same is true, the two forces interact. Boom! A moderately large mushroom cloud rushed into the sky. Facing the impacting air wave, Miyamoto's figure was lifted up in an instant, turning into a streamer, and falling straight towards the Rain Shinobi village. Tendo Pain's expression was distorted by the air waves, looking at the broken repulsion circle. How is it possible? It can resist the power of Shinluo Tianzhong. Oops. The next moment, his body was uncontrollable, and he flew back quickly. After smashing through many buildings along the way, he fell to the ground, knocked out a pothole, and was directly buried. Looking at the battlefield that has changed beyond recognition, Conan's face turned pale. This kind of battle is beyond her ability to intervene. 993. Glancing at the direction where the figure fell just now, Conan flew over in an instant without hesitation. Arriving at the place where the heavenly Tendo Pain fell, Conan saw the heavenly Tendo Pain buried under the ruins. But without waiting for Conan to help, Tendo Pain wore tattered clothes, lifted the things on his body, and walked out of the ruins. The body of the puppet was not damaged. Looking at the reassuring Conan beside him, Tendo Pain said, "Where's Miyamoto Musashi?" Hearing this, Conan glanced at the battlefield and shook his head. Should have left. There was a moment of silence between the two. Tendo Pain glanced at the battlefield, not knowing what to think. Thorn. A flash of thunder quickly passed by, and rushed towards Konoha's direction. Crack. With a slight sound, Miyamoto's figure landed on a branch, and he glanced at the direction behind him. Just now, Shinluo Tianzhong's power was really strong in the counterattack just now. Wooden Golem Jutsu was able to block the powerful defense of Susanoo and Tailed Beast Bomb, but it was broken. The last blow caused him to be injured even more. But fortunately, taking this opportunity, Miyamoto successfully broke away from the battle situation and ran away directly. There is no special significance for Miyamoto to fight Pain this time. If so, I want to experience Rinnegan for myself, so I have a hard time. Chapter 78 Returning to Konoha 4/5. Chapter 78. Konoha, Hokage Office. Tsunade, who just finished surgery on Jiraiya, summoned Kakashi, Guy, and Nara Shikamaru, who are now mainstays. Master Tsunade, where is Miyamoto-kun? Hinata just came to Hokage's office, and asked anxiously, looking at Tsunade with red eyes. Hong, who came with Hinata, did not ask this question, but it was because she was older than Hinata, and the worry in her heart was no less than Hinata's, and even more intense. They already knew about Miyamoto's mission 3 days ago, but they didn't receive the message from Miyamoto, and they were already very worried. Once Miyamoto leaves no information, it proves that this mission is a Super S-rank mission. Such a mission is unreachable to Elite Jonin and below. Even Elite Jonin, whose strength has not reached a certain level, is still not possible. A Super S-level mission means that it is a confidential mission involving Ninja Village or Cage-level powerhouses, which is accompanied by the danger of life. According to the legend, Sanin returned from a serious injury, but only hanged his life, and Miyamoto did not hear from him, which made both Hong and Hinata's hearts stick to their throats. Calm down. Looking at Hinata and Hong, Tsunade's face was serious, and he yelled. Not yet the worst. Tsunade got angry, and the aura of being a high-ranking Cage level exuded, suppressed the people present, and made everyone quiet. Tsunade took out a photo. This is the only information that Jiraiya bought back with her ninja career. Now Jiraiya's situation is quite bad, and it is impossible to recover in a short time. Shikamaru, you should immediately organize people to interpret the code. Nara Shikamaru took the photo with a serious face. This information is quite important. After pondering for a moment, Tsunade looked at Hong and Hinata. Next, it's about Musashi. Just as Tsunade opened his mouth, the office door was pushed open. Everyone looked puzzled, and turned their heads to look at the door. The Jonin male armor on his body has some tatters, and there are also some holes on the top of the pants.
The whole image looks quite miserable, with traces of the Great War all over his body, and Miyamoto just stood at the door. Everyone was stunned. Looking at Miyamoto's miserable appearance, they opened their mouths, not knowing what to say. No need for Miyamoto to say anything, everyone can see. Miyamoto is definitely in a tough fight, otherwise with Miyamoto's strength, it would definitely not be so miserable. Swish. A figure rushed towards Miyamoto quickly, and jumped directly into Miyamoto's arms. Miyamoto-kun. You are back. Hearing these trembling words, Miyamoto showed a gentle smile on his face, and reached out to touch Hinata's little head. I'm back. The red face, the color of worry, also let go, looking at Miyamoto and Hinata, with a smile on his face. Patting Hinata on the shoulder, Miyamoto came to Tsunade and placed a small scroll on the table. This is what I got from Pain. In addition, Pain has 6 people, and I have killed 6 of them. All have Rinnegan, but each has different abilities. Other information, I don't understand very clearly. Hearing Miyamoto's words, everyone's expressions change. Rinnegan, several Jonin have heard of it, it is the legendary eye of the fairy. Regardless of the shocked faces of the others, Miyamoto continued. I suspect. The real leader of Akatsuki is someone else. That pain probably exists like a human puppet. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Tsunade frowned, looking at the small black stick taken out from the scroll. Tsunade was full of doubts. If I remember correctly, one of Jiraiya's disciples many years ago had Rinnegan. Could there be a connection between the two? Or, the disciple died long ago and his Rinnegan was transplanted? There are a lot of problems, however. Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief and looked up at Miyamoto. The next thing will be left to the others. Musashi, you go back to rest first. In the next period of time, you should cultivate well and don't do tasks for the time being. Seeing Miyamoto like this, everyone felt reasonable. Miyamoto did not refuse either, and after talking about the mission this time, he left the office accompanied by Hinata and Hong. Honestly, it's not the first time I've seen him look so. Nara Shikamaru spoke pointedly. Kakashi took over. It seems that Musashi paid a heavy price for this battle. Leaving Hokage's office, Miyamoto frowns. Those toads didn't give Pain any information. What was the reason? What's wrong? Seeing Miyamoto's appearance, Hong couldn't help feeling a little worried. What's wrong? Glancing at Hinata and Red who were worried about him, Miyamoto shook his head. No, nothing. Miyamoto's image is indeed miserable, but in fact, there is no problem anymore. After all, his resilience is not covered. In Sage mode, Muji heals himself without any problem at all. Back home, Miyamoto enjoyed the Emperor's treatment, never had the three of them take a bath together. Today Hinata didn't faint from embarrassment, and rubbed his back with Hong. With a feeling of enjoyment on Miyamoto's face, he looked at the delicate areas of Hong and Hinata. If I had known that this would have such good benefits, I would have suffered some injuries earlier. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Red rolled his eyes and glared at Miyamoto. If you really do that, you won't be allowed to go to my bed for a month. Touch your nose. This threat worked quite well for Miyamoto. No more nonsense, let Hinata and Hong wash themselves clean, and then get into the bathtub. Soaking and soaking, Miyamoto looked at Hong with anticipation on his face. Red. Okay. Red, who already knows Miyamoto's little thoughts quite well, understands the meaning of Miyamoto's words. Hinata had some doubts, looked at Miyamoto, then at Hong. Under Hinata's gaze, although Hong was shy, she still followed Miyamoto and came to Miyamoto's side for a while. Sit down slowly. Hinata understood. Good Jiao Jiao. This scene. Her face flushed instantly, her eyes circled, and she passed out directly. After Hinata woke up, she found herself lying on the bed, shaking a little. Looking around in a blink of an eye, smoke came out of his head again, and he passed out. After all, the happy days passed quite quickly, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. In the past half a month, many things have happened. Jiraiya still hasn't woken up, and from now on, she can no longer become a ninja. Uzumaki Naruto went to Mount Myoboku 5 days ago to practice senjutsu. Interpreting Jiraiya's intelligence, it was determined that Pen was indeed a puppet. In other words, the next time you face, is still 6 paths Pen. For 6 paths Pain, Tsunade has designated a series of battle plans, and has already begun to prepare to eliminate Pain. Under such circumstances, Sleepy Yi has finally entered the stage of strategic preparation for a short time. Chapter 78 Returning to Konoha 4/5 Chapter 78 Konoha, Hokage Office. Tsunade, who just finished surgery on Jiraiya, summoned Kakashi, Guy, and Nara Shikamaru, who are now mainstays. Master Tsunade, where is Miyamoto-kun? Hinata just came to Hokage's office and asked anxiously, looking at Tsunade with red eyes. Hong, who came with Hinata, did not ask this question, but it was because she was older than Hinata, and the worry in her heart was no less than Hinata's, and even more intense. They already knew about Miyamoto's mission 3 days ago, but they didn't receive the message from Miyamoto, and they were already very worried. Once Miyamoto leaves no information, it proves that this mission is a Super S rank mission. Such a mission is unreachable to Elite Jonin and below. Even Elite Jonin, whose strength has not reached a certain level, is still not possible. A Super S level mission means that it is a confidential mission involving ninja village or cage level powerhouses, which is accompanied by the danger of life. According to the legend, Sanin returned from a serious injury, but only hanged his life, and Miyamoto did not hear from him, which made both Hong and Hinata's hearts stick to their throats. Calm down. Looking at Hinata and Hong, Tsunade's face was serious, and he yelled. Not yet the worst. Tsunade got angry, and the aura of being a high-ranking cage level exuded, suppressed the people present, and made everyone quiet. Tsunade took out a photo. This is the only information that Jiraiya brought back with her ninja career. Now Jiraiya's situation is quite bad, and it is impossible to recover in a short time. Shikamaru, you should immediately organize people to interpret the code. Nara Shikamaru took the photo with a serious face. This information is quite important. After pondering for a moment, Tsunade looked at Hong and Hinata. Next, it's about Musashi. Just as Tsunade opened his mouth, the office door was pushed open. Everyone looked puzzled, and turned their heads to look at the door. The Jonin male armor on his body has some tatters, and there are also some holes on the top of the pants. The whole image looks quite miserable, with traces of the Great War all over his body, and Miyamoto just stood at the door. Everyone was stunned. Looking at Miyamoto's miserable appearance, they opened their mouths, not knowing what to say. No need for Miyamoto to say anything, everyone can see. Miyamoto is definitely in a tough fight, otherwise with Miyamoto's strength, it would definitely not be so miserable. Swish. A figure rushed towards Miyamoto quickly, and jumped directly into Miyamoto's arms. Miyamoto-kun. You are back. Hearing these trembling words, Miyamoto showed a gentle smile on his face, and reached out to touch Hinata's little head.
I'm back. The red face, the color of worry, also let go, looking at Miyamoto and Hinata, with a smile on his face. Patting Hinata on the shoulder, Miyamoto came to Tsunade and placed a small scroll on the table. This is what I got from Pain. In addition, Pain has 6 people, and I have killed 6 of them. All have Rinnegan, but each has different abilities. Other information, I don't understand very clearly. Hearing Miyamoto's words, everyone's expressions changed. Rinnegan, several Jonin have heard of it, it is the legendary Eye of the Fairy.
Regardless of the shocked faces of the others, Miyamoto continued. I suspect. The real leader of Akatsuki is someone else. That Pain probably exists like a human puppet. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Tsunade frowned, looking at the small black stick taken out from the scroll. Tsunade was full of doubts. If I remember correctly, one of Jiraiya's disciples many years ago had Rinnegan. Could there be a connection between the two? Or, the disciple died long ago and his Rinnegan was transplanted? There are a lot of problems, however. Tsunade breathed a sigh of relief and looked up at Miyamoto. The next thing will be left to the others. Musashi, you go back to rest first. In the next period of time, you should cultivate well and don't do tasks for the time being. Seeing Miyamoto like this, everyone felt reasonable. Miyamoto did not refuse either, and after talking about the mission this time, he left the office accompanied by Hinata and Hong. Honestly, it's not the first time I've seen him look so. Nara Shikamaru spoke pointedly. Kakashi took over. It seems that Musashi paid a heavy price for this battle. Leaving Hokage's office, Miyamoto frowns. Those toads didn't give Pain any information. What was the reason? What's wrong? Seeing Miyamoto's appearance, Hong couldn't help feeling a little worried. What's wrong? Glancing at Hinata and Red who were worried about him, Miyamoto shook his head. No, nothing. Miyamoto's image is indeed miserable, but in fact, there is no problem anymore. After all, his resilience is not covered. In Sage mode, Muji heals himself without any problem at all. Back home, Miyamoto enjoyed the Emperor's treatment, never had the 3 of them take a bath together. Today Hinata didn't faint from embarrassment, and rubbed his back with Hong. With a feeling of enjoyment on Miyamoto's face, he looked at the delicate areas of Hong and Hinata. Quote. If I had known that this would have such good benefits, I would have suffered some injuries earlier. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Red rolled his eyes and glared at Miyamoto. If you really do that, you won't be allowed to go to my bed for a month. Touch your nose. This threat worked quite well for Miyamoto. No more nonsense, let Hinata and Hong wash themselves clean, and then get into the bathtub. Soaking and soaking, Miyamoto looked at Hong with anticipation on his face. Red, okay. Red, who already knows Miyamoto's little thoughts quite well, understands the meaning of Miyamoto's words. Hinata had some doubts, looked at Miyamoto, then at Hong. Under Hinata's gaze, although Hong was shy, she still followed Miyamoto and came to Miyamoto's side for a while. Sit down slowly. Hinata understood, good Zhao, this scene, her face flushed instantly, her eyes circled, and she passed out directly. After Hinata woke up, she found herself lying on the bed, shaking a little. Looking around in a blink of an eye, smoke came out of his head again, and he passed out. After all, the happy days passed quite quickly, and in the blink of an eye, half a month had passed. In the past half a month, many things have happened. Jiraiya still hasn't woken up, and from now on, she can no longer become a ninja. Uzumaki Naruto went to Mount Myoboku 5 days ago to practice senjutsu. Interpreting Jiraiya's intelligence, it was determined that Pen was indeed a puppet. In other words, the next time you face, is still 6 Paths Pen. For 6 Paths Pain, Tsunade has designated a series of battle plans, and has already begun to prepare to eliminate Pain. Under such circumstances, Sleepy Yi has finally entered the stage of strategic preparation for a short time. Chapter 79. Here comes 5/5 Chapter 79. Perhaps because of Miyamoto's battle at Rain Shinobi Village, Pen, which was supposed to invade, unexpectedly didn't happen this time. During this time, there was a rare peace, but no matter what you say, it's good. What should come, will come eventually. Miyamoto has been recharging his energy these few days and waiting quietly. 2 more days passed. Miyamoto didn't have a task, but Hinata and Hong still had a task. Hinata and the 10th squad teamed up to carry out the task. In the morning, Miyamoto did not stay at home, but went out for a walk. Recently, because of Akatsuki, Miyamoto felt a depressive atmosphere all the time in the ninja circle. Coupled with the matter of Jiraiya, the whole Konoha, although feeling a little relieved because of Pain's information, is still depressed. When watching fan dramas in my previous life, I felt that following in the footsteps of Uzumaki Naruto was full of passion and affection. But when you are really in this world, it is not like this. A ninja, a person who can endure everything. From this explanation, it can be seen that the world of ninjas is quite depressing.
In the beginning, the high school student crossed over. In Miyamoto's heart, 080 was rather hesitant and afraid. At that time, he was not yet mature in mind. He was able to keep his eyes and ears from the life of the ninja world. The biggest credit is to Count Hinata. Otherwise, with Miyamoto's character, it's hard not to walk on the path of the village. After leaving home, Miyamoto in casual clothes walked on the street. Although many people knew him, over the years, almost everyone knew that Miyamoto prefers to be quiet. So few people bothered Miyamoto. All the way to the door of Yamanaka flower shop, Miyamoto took a look and walked in. Welcome. As soon as he walked in, the familiar voice of Yamanaka Ino rang. Hearing this, Miyamoto looked up at Yamanaka Ino, who was looking at the store in front of the counter. Good morning, Ino. After saying hello, Miyamoto walked towards Yamanaka Ino and glanced at the flowers in the flower shop. Visiting a patient, give me a recommendation. Hearing Miyamoto's words, I was a little surprised that Miyamoto actually came to buy flowers from Yamanaka Ino, with a smile on his face. I see. You wait a moment. Quickly wrapped a bouquet of carnations for Miyamoto and handed them to Miyamoto. Yamanaka Ino had a smile on his face. Miyamoto-kun, are you going to visit Jiraiya-sama? I looked up at Yamanaka Ino, the only flower among the new generation Ino Shikacho, not to mention its strength, but it is really beautiful, but it is not Yamanaka's dish. And combined, Ino Shikacho's combat power is quite impressive. Nodding, Miyamoto said, Jiraiya was seriously injured, and I was more or less responsible for it. It would be a little bad if I didn't go to see it once. I'm leaving. After speaking, Miyamoto walked directly towards Konoha Hospital with flowers in his hand. Before going out this morning, I received a report from Anbu that Jiraiya had woken up. Pain's intelligence, also elaborated by Jiraiya, was trimmed. Crash. Opening the door of Jiraiya's ward, Miyamoto walked in and saw Tsunade standing by the window sill. Well, did I come at the wrong time? How about you continue? Although he continued, Miyamoto walked in honestly. Tsunade and Jiraiya are impossible, even now that Jiraiya comes back alive, it is also impossible. It's rare. You don't even stay at home. Tsunade didn't pay attention to Miyamoto's words, but looked at Miyamoto curiously. Come to Jiraiya, is there something? Jiraiya, who was lying on the bed, looked at Miyamoto with doubts on her face after hearing Tsunade's words. Handing the words in his hand to Tsunade, Miyamoto glanced at Jiraiya. It seems that you will be able to concentrate on writing the Little Emperor's book in the future. Hearing Miyamoto's bodged words, Jiraiya's hoarse voice sounded. You came to see me, just for this matter. Shaking his head, Miyamoto really didn't have anything to ask about Jiraiya. As for the toad on Mount Myoboku, Miyamoto didn't intend to ask, so he explained. Anyway, this happened to you when you were on a mission with me. I feel sorry if I don't come to see you. Well, seeing that you are recovering well, I feel relieved. Miyamoto doesn't worry about other things. He came here today, purely for a walk. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Jiraiya grinned and didn't say much. For him, the end of his ninja career might not be a bad thing. The sun is shining brightly, people are coming and going on the street, and Konoha village is a bustling scene. Outside Konoha village, a patrolling squad fell in a pool of blood. On the black stick in Tendo Pain's hand, drop by drop of blood fell, and he raised his eyes to look at the high wall of Konoha. Finally, it's time to start. At the same time, the same thing happened to Konoha's other patrol points. Members of the Akatsuki organization, wearing red clouds and black windbreakers, gathered in various places, secretly obliterating the patrolling ninjas. All gathered at the place where Tendo Pain was. Hoshigaki Kisame, Ju, Konan, Pen Six Paths, and finally Uchiha Obito, who goes by the alias Hobby. The existing Akatsuki members are all here. If Miyamoto sees this scene, he will definitely find it unbelievable. Glancing at Konoha's fence, the beast Dao Pain stood up directly, making seals with both hands. Summoning technique. Bang bang bang. A series of smoke exploded, and a huge summoning beast with a black iron rod stuck in its body was controlled by the animal way. Swish swish swish. The five of Pain's six paths jumped up and landed on a giant summoning bird, flapping their wings and flying high. Tendo Pain glanced at Kisame and Obito next to him, and said calmly. The search for Nine Tails Jinchuriki Uzumaki Naruto is up to you. While speaking, using the repulsive force, he and Konan flew into the air. Seeing Tendo Pain and Konan in action, Kisame grinned. Yeah, did that Miyamoto Musashi really master wood style? So many people come to Konoha together, is it necessary? The words of dried persimmon ghost shark made the people around him smile coldly. That's because you haven't seen wood style, of course you will say that, and when you do, I hope you won't be intimidated. As an old monster that has lived for a long time, it can be said to be quite powerful compared to wood style. He will never forget the scene when Indra drove a full-body Susanoo, but was directly destroyed by Ashura's wood style. Of course, he can't forget the battle between first Hokage and Uchiha Madara in the Valley of the End, where Uchiha Madara was hammered. Wood style. Quite scary, but also very important blood succession limit. Chapter 80 Let the World Feel Pain 1/5. Chapter 80. The days brought by the hustle and bustle and peace brought happiness and bright smiles to the faces of ordinary villagers. It seems that in a dark environment that does not exist, ordinary people are always happy. Even some genin will be paralyzed. Only when their strength and status have reached a certain height can they know. This kind of peace cannot be said to be bad. For ordinary people, the happiness index is indeed high, but for ninjas, it is not necessarily so. Ichiraku Ramen. Miyamoto is sitting in the shop, eating ramen. Here, Miyamoto-sama, this is another reward. The handmaid daughter, Iris, added a serving of ramen to Miyamoto's bowl and said with a smile. Looking at the beautiful calamus, Miyamoto nodded slightly, and said. Thank you, but if you do business like this, wouldn't it be a loss? Miyamoto's words made Iris smile indifferently, and said. It's not a big deal. Miyamoto-sama is alone. After saying this, Ayame turned around and got busy with herself. Miyamoto shook his head and said more. Ōtsutsuki Ichiraku. What, that was purely imaginary. Miyamoto tried to copy the handmade one, but there was nothing. While eating with his head down, Miyamoto's face changed before a mouthful of ramen was delivered to his mouth. Boom. There was an explosion sound, followed by a roar that never stopped. What happened? Handa and Calamus' father and daughter looked outside worriedly, and Miyamoto turned his head to look in the direction where the smoke was rising, and his expression changed. Slap uncle, you guys go to evacuate. The enemy has attacked. Miyamoto's face showed a dignified color. After saying this, his figure flashed, and he instantly moved towards the direction of Tendo Pain and Conan in his perception. Hokage building. I remember that you are indeed. Looking at Tendo Pain in front of him, Tsunade frowned, thinking slightly. The kid at that time. Hearing Tsunade's words, Conan didn't answer, but Tendo Pain spoke. Looks like you remember. Azuki Yugao stood in front of Tsunade and asked. Who the hell is he? Calm to almost indifferent, looking at Tsunade.
Where is the god of justice? Uzumaki Naruto, 9 tails. Hearing Tendo Pain's words, Tsunade's face was solemn, and he didn't answer. Instead, he became vigilant, looking at Tendo Pain and Conan beside him. According to Miyamoto's information, these two are the strongest. Even if he uses wood style, they can only be equal in combat effectiveness, although it is more or less because of the reason for using wooden golem jutsu for the first time to fight, but this also proves the strength of the two powerful. I see. It seems that you have obtained information about me from Jiraiya and Miyamoto Musashi. Tendo Pain looked at Tsunade and said, but in the face of overwhelming power, all schemes are meaningless. You big countries have already proved this point, it must be very clear. Turning around slowly, Conan's figure also turned into pieces of paper and floated away, leaving Pain here alone. You think you are the protagonist of this world, and you also think that the protagonist is far away from death. It is too superficial to be intoxicated in peace like this. If you kill someone, you will be killed. Hatred will tie the two together. Turning his head, he looked at Tsunade from the corner of his eye. The undisguised hatred and killing intent made Tsunade and others feel unparalleled coercion. Your thinking is ridiculous. The huge aura radiating out, and the hatred and paranoia emanating from Tendo Pain at this moment affected the emotions of the people around him. The body slowly lifted into the air, and the voice of Tendo Pain, urged by Chakra, gradually expanded and gradually became audible in the distance. Feel the pain. Think about the pain. Accept the pain. Know the pain? Accept the pain. Know the pain. Those who don't understand the pain will not understand the real peace. Flying high into the sky, looking down at the entire Konoha, with a compelling aura and icy cold voice, Tendo Pain raised his hands. I can't forget Yahiko's pain, from now on. Let the world feel the pain, a piercing hum, a light brighter than the sun. Shenluo Tianzheng. Boom. Boom. Centered directly below Tendo Pain, the terrifying repulsion force that was so huge that it distorted the line of sight directly acted on the core area of Konoha, based on this. This terrifying repulsive force destroys everything. Miyamoto, who was running towards the Hokage building, stopped after feeling the huge repulsive force in the air, and looked up at the sky with serious eyes. Ask for flowers. The next moment, Konoha shook, and under Miyamoto's gaze, the huge Konoha village was directly destroyed by more than half. Such a doomsday situation, to be honest, happened in a place he knew well. Miyamoto felt some feelings in his heart, and raised his eyes to look in the direction of the big pit. With a movement of his body, Miyamoto rushed directly to the big pit, his eyes still calm. When he came to the big pit, Miyamoto saw Tsunade, who was not injured, but Chakra was extremely weak, and even the seal of Baihao on his forehead was gone. Standing in front of Tsunade, Miyamoto said, Master Hokage asked everyone to evacuate here temporarily, and you will not be able to intervene in the next battle here. Tsunade, who wanted to say something after hearing what Miyamoto said, opened his mouth, but nodded without saying anything. Be careful. Thorn. After rushing out in an instant, Miyamoto headed directly towards the pothole, and the huge smoke directly covered his figure. When he came to the pothole, Miyamoto saw Tendo Pain with a calm face in the pothole, and beside him, the other 5 paths were all here.
Is it finally here? After seeing Miyamoto appear, Tendo Pain said something and looked at Miyamoto. His eyes fell on Tendo Pain. This time it was his miscalculation. What Miyamoto didn't expect was that as soon as Tendo Pain came, he would directly open up and use Shinluo Tianzheng. I don't know how much Konoha's vitality was ruined.
Ruthless enough. Ah, here we come. Miyamoto opened his mouth lightly, the chakra on his body burst out, looked at Pain, and formed a seal on his hand. Go on, last fight. Miyamoto's face showed a dignified color, and he looked at Tendo Pain. Uzumaki Naruto has not returned yet. Miyamoto will not talk about it, for Miyamoto too. Just hit it. As soon as Miyamoto's voice fell, Shirado stood up next to Tendo Pain, raised his hand, and instantly transformed. Various small missiles and rocket wrists shot towards Miyamoto. Chapter 81 Fight Pain Again 2/5 Chapter 81, Wood-Style Birth of the Tree World. Facing Shirado's attack, Miyamoto's expression remained unchanged, his hands formed mudras, the chakra on his body exploded, and big trees emerged from the soil, and the flying branches directly blocked Shirado's attack.
Summoning technique. When the tree world spread towards Pain's 6 paths, Heavenly Dao Pain's beast Dao pressed his hands on the ground at the same time. Amidst a puff of smoke, several huge summoning beasts charged directly towards Miyamoto's counter. Standing on the big tree, Miyamoto's hand seal changes. Wood-style wood dragon technique. Boom. From the forest, several lifelike huge wooden dragons rushed out, directly entangled with these summoning beasts. No matter how many summoning beasts appeared, they took them all at once. Absorbing the chakra of the summoning beast, the power of the wooden dragon will become stronger and stronger. Miyamoto is not worried about 643 at all. The huge forest directly covered the area that Pain had just destroyed. The home field had already been set up. Miyamoto looked at the Tiandao protected in the center, and knew in his heart that the cooling time of Tiandao Pain's ability had not yet come.
Pain. Looking up at Tendo Pain, the chakra on Miyamoto's body erupted, causing the surrounding trees to grow rapidly, and at the same time, sharp pieces of wood emerged from the trees, like javelins. Wood-style cutting technique. Spears all over the sky shot towards Pain's 6 paths head-on. It was very clear that the powerful Pain's 6 paths of wood-style cutting technique jumped up at the same time without any hesitation. But at this moment, Miyamoto's eyes showed a sneer. Wood-style laughing Buddha Jutsu. Boom. The giant hand that broke through the ground, with lightning speed, from top to bottom, directly suppressed Pain's 6 paths. With a fixed gaze, the perspectives of the 6 of Pain are all shared.
One person saw it, and the others naturally saw it too. In an instant, Shiradao's body directly met the giant hand, and an extremely long chainsaw erupted from his body, cutting directly towards Pain 6. The giant hand that paths suppressed. Boom. Vibrating sound reverberates. The laughing Buddha that Uchiha Madara Susanoo was able to cut through with a single sword, was not able to be sawed through by Shiradao, who had dispersed his strength. The chainsaw didn't work. Laughing Buddha's giant hand's hard defense directly crushed the chainsaw, and suppressed it towards Pain's 6 paths. The 5 figures flashed by, taking advantage of the slight gap, and directly hit aside. Boom. The giant hand fell, directly suppressing Shiradao, and at the same time covering Shiradao, dragging it to the ground and wrapping it in the roots of a big tree. Fix 1. After speaking, he manipulated wood style and kept chasing and killing the others. Miyamoto is in the most favorable position in the range of the birth of the tree world. Snapped. After clapping his hands, a sneer appeared on Miyamoto's face.
Your vision is shared, but so what? Earth-style multiple earth walls. Rumble. Miyamoto made seals, and pressed his hands on the ground, chakra surge, and in the middle of Pen's 5 paths, a huge earth formation wall blocked the eyes of the 5 people. After completing this trick, Miyamoto smiled on his face and put his hands together. Wood-style wood clone. 5 wood clones flew out at the same time, and a huge wind-style chakra was condensed on the hands. Wind-style spiral shuriken. Boom. 4 explosions sounded in succession, and the earth formation wall that blocked the line of sight was blasted away by similar fluctuations, and 4 large pits appeared in the forest. Tendo Pain stood where he was unharmed, and in front of him, the hungry Kido spread his hands and devoured all the chakra in the spiral shuriken. And Miyamoto's wood clone, under the control, had already knocked out chakra just now, and disappeared naturally. Tendo Pain didn't say anything about Miyamoto's destruction of other 6 paths. After this wave of attacks was completed, Tendo Pain finally stood up. Facing Miyamoto, chakra rioted all over his body, causing gusts of wind, and Tendo Pain put his hands together. Miyamoto Musashi has prepared a gift for you for a while, I hope you will be satisfied. Universal pull. Boom. The whole Konoha shook, and a huge black shadow floated in the sky, and the huge mountain like a small island quickly shifted into the Konoha, heading towards the pothole. Seeing this scene, Akatsuki Kisame and others from the Akatsuki organization who were fighting all focused their eyes on Uzumaki Naruto who had returned from Mount Myoboku. If you don't work quickly, there may be accidents. Nine-Tails Kid. The battle situation here is almost the same. One move by Tendo Pain caused Konoha to lose most of his vitality in an instant, and the remaining combat power, and other places. Here at the moment, there is only Uzumaki Naruto alone. The black shadow came, and he couldn't help but look up at the sky. A trace of cold sweat dripped down Miyamoto's face. Low spec Tengai Shinsei. This thing falls. Definitely hurts. Although shocked in his heart, Miyamoto, who had never underestimated Tendo Pain, looked serious. Wood-style wooden golem jutsu. Ka. The huge wooden golem was condensed into shape within a few breaths from the woods. Miyamoto looked up at the island in the sky, and without hesitation, manipulated the wooden golem. With a punch, he faced the mountain falling from the sky.
Boom. Wooden golem's fists were in a stalemate with the hill, and the hill was densely covered with cracks. The next moment, countless gravels fell from the sky and landed in the woods. The figures of Tendo Pain and Hungry Kido kept flashing, avoiding the gravel.
After avoiding for a while, a huge wind pressure hit, and in Tendo Pain's vision, an extremely huge fist rushed towards him and the Hungry Kido very quickly. Swish. The figure of Hungry Kido directly blocked in front of Tendo Pain. Boom. The two figures were directly blown away by this punch, smashing countless giant trees along the way. In the forest, the two of them and the fist wind directly plowed a hole.
Bang bang. In the end, the two 3.4 people were directly blasted into the earth wall of the pit. Standing on top of the wooden golem, Miyamoto untied the seal of the wooden golem jutsu with his gaze bright. In a blink of an eye, Miyamoto fell into the woods, raised his eyes and looked in the direction of Tendo Pain, with a suspicious expression on his face. Tendo Pain did not use his full strength in this battle, and the most important thing is where did Konan, who was inseparable from Tendo, go? Walking out of the smoke and dust unscathed, Tendo Pain looked at Miyamoto. Kido was directly scrapped by the punch just now. Tendo Pain was fine, more or less because of the buffer of Hungry Kido. Looking at Pain, Miyamoto frowned. Where's Konan? Chapter 82. Tens of millions of detonating symbols explode 3/5. Chapter 82. Looking at Miyamoto with a suspicious face, Pain pondered for a moment, then calmly said. Have you finally noticed it? But it's a little late. Compared with other things, it's better for you to worry about yourself now. When he said this, Tendo Pain raised his hand and made a seal.
The real gift arrives now. Hearing this, Miyamoto's face showed doubts, and he opened his eyes instantly. After seeing clearly the environment he was in, Miyamoto's face changed drastically, and he looked up at Tendo Pain, but heard Tendo Pain say indifferently. Ninja 10,000 detonating talisman explosion. You should feel some pain too. Click. The next moment, a suffocating breath of destruction permeated the air. Rumble. A huge mushroom cloud rose into the sky, and the shockwave ravaged Konoha again. All the fighting was directly forced to stop, and some Konoha shinobi who got close were even thrown away by this terrifying force. 17. If the attack caused by Shenluo Tianjung just now is like Konoha's doomsday, then the explosion at this moment will give people the same feeling. Extinct. After the horrific explosion, Tsunade, who was rescued in the village, felt his scalp tingle. Anbu, Kakashi, all Jonin who still have combat power, all reinforce Musashi. Immediately. Swish, swish, swish. One after another, figures flew out quickly, heading towards the battlefield between Miyamoto and Tendo Pain. The figure of Tendo Pain walked step by step towards the position where Miyamoto was just now. The windbreaker on his body was torn, but it was still intact, but his gait seemed a little slow. It can be seen that his consumption was quite high. Big. Such an explosion should leave no bones left. Tendo Pain, who was gradually approaching, murmured, raised his hand and sent out a weak repulsive force, blowing away the smoke and dust here. Seeing clearly the situation at the center of the explosion, Tendo Pain stopped in his tracks. In the middle of a huge piece of wood that has been blasted to pieces stands a man and no one else. It was Miyamoto. The clothes on the upper body are gone, and the trousers are also tattered, but the appearance is miserable, but there is nothing wrong inside. When the smoke and dust cleared, Tendo Pain saw clearly what Miyamoto looked like at the moment. The long hair was scattered casually, and the handsome face was covered with frost. In a pair of eyes, Mangekyo Sharingan was slowly spinning, and in both eyes, blood and tears flowed down. Its whole body is wrapped in a pale golden phantom. Susanoo. Seeing this scene, Tendo Pain, who is very familiar with Mangekyo Sharingan, looked solemn. Mangekyo Sharingan, Miyamoto Musashi, Mangekyo Sharingan and Woodstyle rolled into one. Who are you? Hearing Tendo Pain's words, Miyamoto didn't answer. When he closed his eyes, Sharingan closed directly, ignoring the sting from his body. Miyamoto ran towards Tendo Pain slowly. Faster and faster, faster and faster. Thorn. With chakra condensed in his hand, Miyamoto's face showed killing intent.
I would like to praise you for making such a big surprise. As a gift in return, let you experience my real killing move. In a moment, it will be over. Swish. Miyamoto launched the body flicker technique, approaching Tendo Pain extremely fast. Snapped. Tendo Pain clasped his hands together, gathered the remaining chakra, and faced Miyamoto's approach. Shira. The ice blue light in Miyamoto's eyes lit up, and he raised his hand and held it with his fingers. Gravity. Come here. The gravitational force far more precise than Tendo Pain's universal pull erupted. The hands of Tendo Pain, who was about to cast Shenluo Tianzhong, couldn't close together under this terrifying gravitational force. At the same time, the whole person moved towards Miyamoto flew quickly, with an unbelievable tone. How is it possible? This gravitational force, is it universal pull? Tendo Pain's actions were directly imprisoned, and he was unable to respond effectively at all. At the moment when they were close to interlacing, 10 golden rays of light lit up on Miyamoto's right hand. Pseudo-golden wheels explode. Thorn. The two figures crossed, Pain's body was split into two and fell to the ground without any movement, while Miyamoto stood firmly next to Pain's body. Feeling the pain coming from the body, and at the same time having a cool feeling, not only the body, but also a pair of eyes, there is also such a cool feeling. A little lingering fear. 10 million detonating talismans were buried deep in the soil and exploded at the same time. There is no one other than Conan who can make such a masterpiece. The most important thing is that the hill that Pain moved over contains a large amount of detonating clay, substances with similar properties. The horror of this explosion is even more powerful than that of Shenluo Tianzhong. If it wasn't for Miyamoto's fast enough speed, he used the Mangekyo pupil technique to enhance the defense power of wood expulsion jutsu and his own Susanoo to the greatest extent, and then used another pupil technique on the left eye. Weaken. If he tries his best to weaken the attacks on his body, Miyamoto is sure that today he will sacrifice one eye and cast Sharingan's secret technique Uzumaki. I was a little sad, and I was still thinking about paddling, waiting for Uzumaki Naruto to come back to deal with Tendo Pain and Uzumaki Nagato. I didn't expect that I would give myself such a big gift. Get a feel for your body. More than half of chakra was consumed, a lot of pupil power was also consumed, and there was some soreness on his body. Although 270 was not injured, he was quite tired. God Pain. Although he is just a puppet being manipulated, I don't think Uzumaki Nagato should have his charm. Taking a black stick from Tendo Pain's body, Miyamoto felt it a little bit, and he had already discovered where Uzumaki Nagato was. Looking up in that direction, Miyamoto hesitated for a moment and gave up his plan to find Uzumaki Nagato. Swish swish swish. Several figures rushed over here. Kakashi, Anbu Azuki Shion, and the rest of the Jonin. Glancing at Miyamoto's appearance, everyone's faces showed a sigh of relief. Kakashi took a few steps forward and looked at Miyamoto. Are you all right? Shaking his head, Miyamoto wiped the bloodline from his face, and glanced at Tendo Pain who was no longer able to move. Keep an eye on this corpse. Give this thing to Naruto. The next thing, I will leave it to you. 2. After explaining something, Miyamoto patted Kakashi on the shoulder and walked straight towards the edge of the pothole. Today's fight was really cool, and the next thing is basically out of his turn. As far as the mouth is concerned, Uzumaki Naruto is the one who is good at it. Chapter 83 Konoha is a grand event 4/5. Chapter 83. After Miyamoto left the battlefield, he randomly found a place to sit down and rest. After all, it was good anyway, and the consumption was quite high, but in general, it was because Miyamoto didn't want to worry about the next thing. He has already killed the strongest Pain 6 paths, other things, if Konoha still can't be defeated, then it goes without saying. After resting for more than an hour, in the middle of the pit, suddenly a huge Yama's head rose up, opened its mouth, spit out countless light spots, and fell to various places in Konoha village. Seeing this scene, a smile appeared on Miyamoto's face. Isn't it Uzumaki Naruto, the king of mouth? Number 1 ninja by surprise, it's really not covered. After people were resurrected, after they realized that they were able to be resurrected because Uzumaki Naruto persuaded the enemy, the monster child, who was originally despised by everyone, was recognized by most people in Konoha village for the first time. Putting on a coat casually, Miyamoto looked at Uzumaki Naruto who was welcomed back like a hero. Miyamoto once again felt the power of emotional contagion. At this moment, the gratitude emanating between the villagers and the ninja is much purer than Miyamoto imagined. Pain's words are correct. Those who have not experienced pain will not understand the importance of peace, those who have not experienced death will not understand the value of life, and those who have not been saved will not be excited. 3 days have passed since Akatsuki's invasion. Because of Miyamoto's intervention, Tsunade did not fall into a coma as in the original book, but recovered after lying on the bed for 3 days. Today is the 3rd day of Konoha's reconstruction. Most of Konoha's area has been destroyed, but the power of ninjas should not be underestimated. In addition, after experiencing this incident, Konoha has become quite united. Although it has only been 3 days, some places have already begun to be cleaned up. At least some of the documents in Tsunade's office have been cleaned up. Walking with Hinata and Hong to the temporary office of Hokage, looking at the Konoha that exudes new vitality. Although we have encountered great difficulties, generally speaking, the mental outlook of the villagers is even better now. Before that, Konoha was prosperous and peaceful, but it didn't have this kind of vitality anymore. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Hong and Hinata looked at each other, smiled slightly, and didn't say much. Pain invaded. The two of them and the 10th squad were on a mission, so they didn't know. But after coming back, seeing that look, I knew how tragic the battle was at that time, and at the same time, the status of the battalion capital was already quite high. The use of wood style represents that Miyamoto's reputation has reached a certain level. Even though Uzumaki Naruto is called a hero because he saved everyone, but Miyamoto is regarded as Konoha. Future. It goes without saying that the wood style in the chaotic times of the plains has reappeared in the world. Miyamoto is immortal and protects Konoha for the next 5,000 years. Hong and Hinata, although they know that Miyamoto doesn't care about such things as power and prestige. But women, more or less, have some comparisons. Who doesn't want their man to be more famous? Tsunade started to work, and Miyamoto and the three of them, as ninjas, naturally needed to report on the work. Arriving at Tsunade's temporary office, Miyamoto and his group just walked in when they saw that many people's eyes were on Miyamoto, even the eyes of the two Hokage consultants were on Miyamoto. Is it finally here, Musashi? A smile appeared on Tsunade's face, and his eyes were quite satisfied. Since Musashi is here, the proposal just now can be said. Hearing this, Miyamoto's eyes flickered. Seeing this, Guanbin probably knew what was going on. Sixth Hokage question, right. Even though Tsunade didn't fall into a coma this time, everyone can see that Miyamoto's current reputation is quite suitable for Hokage. After hearing Tsunade's words, the two Hokage advisors, Mitokado Homura and Udatane Kaharu, looked at each other and looked at Miyamoto. Miyamoto Musashi, would you like to be the sixth Hokage? After Mitokado Homura finished speaking, Udatane Kaharu showed seriousness on his face. Now that the news of Konoha's serious damage has spread, it is hard to guarantee that there will be no changes in neighboring countries. Although Tsunade is also very good as 5th Hokage, he is still very good. Compared to you with wood style, her deterrent power is slightly insufficient.
And with you as Hokage, sitting in Konoha. Speaking of this, Udatane Kaharu didn't go on. There is no need to say more, everyone understands what she means. Tsunade didn't mind, and looked up at Miyamoto. From Tsunade's point of view, although Miyamoto is called Miyamoto Musashi, he is still a member of her clan. This can be confirmed from the wood style that is not much worse than her grandfather.
She doesn't mind at all if the position of Hokage is handed over to Miyamoto. On the contrary, Tsunade is quite in favor of Miyamoto becoming Hokage. Everyone looked at Miyamoto, waiting for Miyamoto's answer. Hinata and Hong didn't speak, they just looked at Miyamoto. No matter what decision Miyamoto made, they all supported it. I reject. Miyamoto spoke and looked at the crowd. Quote. When I first started, I said, I have no interest in Hokage. As a deterrent to the village, it doesn't have to be a Hokage. The current Konoha isn't so tense, is it? The Pen invasion. Except for the economic loss, the vitality has not been consumed at all. The current Konoha, in my opinion, is stronger than before. There was a slight twinkle in the eyes, and a glance at the proposed Mitokado Homura and warming Kaharu. And, the moving wood style is more deterrent than the fixed wood style. Master Tsunade is still doing Hokage. Anyway, I will obey Master Tsunade's orders, so there is still nothing wrong. I'm here, it's a deterrent. Tsunade looked at Miyamoto with a smile on his face, as expected. You too, have you seen it? As I said, he won't be involved in such a thing. Except for the two consultants, the others also had the same expressions. All the people present are familiar with Miyamoto's character. Except for the two Hokage advisors. As for the matter of succeeding Hokage, just leave it at that. As Miyamoto said, apart from the economic loss in the Pen invasion, Konoha was not a big deal.
If anyone really thinks that Konoha is quite weak at this time, then it is really a big mistake, faint.
Miyamoto Musashi, a super cage level master with wood style. Hitaki Kakashi, a master who can split 50 with anyone. Might Guy, who drives 8 inner gates, is a strong one at cage level. Red Sunset, Illusion Shadow. Uzumaki Naruto, broke out and went berserk in Nine-Tails state, absolutely terrifying. Coupled with the new generation of ninjas who have grown up a lot, Konoha's combat effectiveness is quite sturdy. At present, Konoha should be prosperous. Chapter 84 New Mission 5/5. Chapter 84. Miyamoto's house was destroyed, and the rebuilt small villa was completed very quickly, and it was a priority. After all, it was good anyway, and Miyamoto was also the existence of Konoha's prestige. A week later, Miyamoto looked at the completed new home with a smile on his face. This is our new home in the future. After glancing at Hinata and Hong beside him, Miyamoto said something, took the hands of the two girls, and walked into the new home together. It was completely built according to the requirements of Miyamoto's design drawings. The craftsmanship of the master worker is quite good, and some parts are 10 points better than the layman's design of Shigemoto. After Hinata and Hong walked around, they returned to Miyamoto's side. Everything is good, but there are some things that I don't want to part with. The red wine Miyamoto has brewed for so many years is gone. Hinata said with a bit of pity, although the red wine is better if it is stored for a longer period of time, it is not always the case. After that time, the taste will decline. Miyamoto made it for himself, which is of course a pretty good one, and it's not time to get the best taste yet. Hearing Hinata's words, Miyamoto smiled mysteriously, and took out several scrolls from his arms. In that case, don't worry. Seeing Miyamoto's actions, Hinata had a surprised smile on his face, and 643 asked. Could it be? Nodding his head, Miyamoto put down the scroll and made a seal. Untie. Boom. After a burst of smoke, some commemorative things were neatly packed, including other scrolls. Miyamoto-kun, have you put away all these things in advance? Seeing what was in front of him, Hinata had an unexpected smile on his face. Nodding, Miyamoto said, I always feel that something will happen, so just in case, I packed some important things, and I didn't expect to make mistakes. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Hong's face, and he looked at Miyamoto. Your hunch is still as accurate as ever. Next, the three of them worked together and began to tidy up the new home. If there were no accidents, this would be the place where the three of them would live for a long time in the future. Naturally, they had to take care of it. For a day, the three of Miyamoto are tidying up their new home. Another 3 days later, Miyamoto was staying at home without doing any tasks. During this time, Hong and Hinata did not have any tasks. Just in case, elite Jonin like Hong, Kakashi, BHBD, Might Guy, will stay in the village if not necessary. Swish. The figure of Anbu Suzuki Shion appeared in Miyamoto's small courtyard, kneeling on one knee, quite respectful. Miyamoto-sama, Hokage-sama has something to ask for you. Hearing Azuki Shion's words, Miyamoto was taken aback for a moment, and glanced at the small notebook inside, which just turned to 5 Shadow Talks. Nodding his head, Miyamoto looked at Yugao Azuki. I understand, you go first, and I'll come over after I prepare. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Azuki Shion was stunned for a moment, but she didn't ask. Yes, this subordinate will leave. After finishing speaking, Azuki Shion's figure disappeared immediately. Standing up, Miyamoto walked into the room, and saw Hong and Hinata on the sofa, chatting about the affairs of the boudoir. Red, Hinata, I have something to tell you. Miyamoto's voice caught the attention of Hong and Hinata. They turned to look at Miyamoto. Hong had doubts. What happened? Nodding, Miyamoto said, just now, Anbu sent a message that Mr. Hokage has something to do with me. I probably know about this task. I may have to leave for a while. This time I will go out to solve the hidden danger of my eyes.
You don't have to worry. Hearing Miyamoto's words, although Hong and Hinata were a little worried, they believed in Miyamoto more. Amidst the voices of the two exhorting, Miyamoto changed into a Jonin male armor, put on his own equipment, and glanced at the two. I'll be back soon. Quickly rushed to Tsunade's temporary office, Miyamoto walked in directly and took a look at Tsunade. Ready to go. Musashi, new mission. Tsunade looked at Miyamoto and said. As my bodyguard, come with me to the Land of Iron to participate in the 5 Kages conference. Sure enough, this is the mission. After hearing what Tsunade said, Miyamoto nodded. I see, should we leave now? Nodding his head as a matter of course, Tsunade waved his hand, took the hat representing himself Hokage, and glanced at Shizune who was holding the ninja pig. I'll leave it to you Shizune for the unimportant things, and for important things, contact me through Katsuyu. Shizune nodded nervously, and after a reply, he looked at Miyamoto again. Miyamoto-sama, the safety of Tsunade-sama is up to you. Nodding, Miyamoto smiled at Shizune, followed behind Tsunade, and walked out of the hospital. Both of them left in a low-key manner without any fanfare. After all, it is more or less inappropriate now.
On the way, Tsunade's face was serious. Musashi, knowing this 5 Kages conference, why did you ask me to come out? Hearing Tsunade's words, Miyamoto froze for a moment. He really didn't think about it. After all, Miyamoto doesn't have the qualifications of a politician. Miyamoto seldom thinks about these crooked things. Have no idea. If you don't know, Miyamoto said directly. Hearing Miyamoto's answer, Tsunade showed a helpless color on his face. You really don't care about these issues. As long as you pay attention a little bit, you should be able to notice it. When Tsunade said this, his face began to turn cold.
Pain was able to successfully invade Konoha's core area, and people from the Akatsuki organization were able to sneak into Konoha quietly for a period of time without being discovered. This is more or less due to certain people. I've already found out that Pain's on-duty information and patrol information on the day of the invasion have all been leaked. Hearing this, Miyamoto pondered for a moment. Who Tsunade is talking about is naturally needless to say. But when he thought of another thing, Miyamoto felt quite strange. This time when Konoha was invaded, the Akatsuki organization actually formed a group.
Although Uchiha Obito is a hang-up dog, Konan, Kisame Kaki, and the three of them have made great efforts. Kisame and Konan, the god Paperman, teamed up and added excellent help, but they forced out Uzumaki Naruto's 8 tails. Shao playing group. Really hard to deal with. But it's okay, the current Akatsuki won't be able to fight for a long time. If you play a team from the beginning, you will be invincible. Chapter 85 5 Shadows Meeting 1/5. Chapter 85. For Miyamoto, who is not interested in power at all, Tsunade also knows that this is Miyamoto's character. In addition to being helpless, Tsunade has some admiration for being able to maintain this mentality all the time. No wonder Miyamoto's strength has soared so much. This kind of mentality can also be regarded as a kind of help to become a strong man. Seeing that Miyamoto didn't answer, Tsunade explained directly. Danzo, this guy, leaked information, although there is no evidence, but I can be sure it is him.
I don't know his purpose, but this guy Danzo, the safety of Konoha has been threatened, so if there is a chance, take the lead in eradicating Danzo. Upon hearing this, Miyamoto nodded. I see. Hearing Miyamoto said that he understood, Tsunade smiled angrily. You know what a fart. I asked you to come with me this time because I think Danzo.
I will do it during this period of time. Not only does he have wood style on him, there should be other things that balance the erosion of wood style, such as Sharingan. He looked at Tsunade strangely, a little surprised. Tsunade actually managed to find such a point. It seems that her intelligence ability must not be underestimated. Whether it is speculation or confirmed by some means, it proves that Tsunade has a set. As Hokage, Tsunade is qualified. Looking away, Miyamoto looked flat and said. If it's what you said, I'll go all out and kill Danzo. Tsunade was slightly relieved. That's good. She is not an indecisive woman. This time Danzo betrayed Konoha's patrol information, which caused Konoha to be almost destroyed. If it weren't for Miyamoto and Uzumaki Naruto, Konoha would definitely be seriously injured, and this has already involved the bottom line.
Tsunade will never let him live. The journey to the Land of Iron was neither far nor short, and Miyamoto and Tsunade were not in too much a hurry along the way. Even when passing through Yuno Kuni, he stayed for an afternoon. While taking a bath, Tsunade lost all his money and gambled with Miyamoto's wallet. Its nickname is, I can win and pay back double after a comeback. So gamblers are really an incredible type of people, especially those who lose red eyes. After having a good time, I got up the next day and continued on my way. Both of them are masters, so their speed is naturally slow. One day later, they entered the Land of Iron covered with snow.
As soon as they entered the snow-capped country of Iron, the speed of the two accelerated a lot. This time, it didn't take much time to come to the location of the Five Shadows Conference. After the samurai of Iron Country confirmed their identities, the two of them entered the Five Cages conference hall under the leadership of one person. Walking in, the situation inside is clear at a glance. The already familiar Kage Gaara, and the two guards behind him, Tamari and Konkuro. Wearing a Mizukage hat, the figure is comparable to Tsunade, mature and charming, the beautiful eyes are flowing and radiant, and the fifth Mizukage has two blood successors. The guards behind him, the leader of the 10 ninja swordsmen, have a supercilious look. A short, big-nosed old man, owns third Tsuchikage Onoki who was eliminated by blood successor, as well as his son Kitu and his granddaughter. The black soil of the future legs. Thinking of the shadow of the legs, Miyamoto subconsciously looked at Haitu, and glanced down at Haitu's long legs. Not to mention, it's really good. With just one glance, Miyamoto looked away, but his gaze was still noticed by the people present. Except for the Gaara 3 who knew Miyamoto, the other three shadows present undoubtedly looked down on Miyamoto a lot. One of the three prohibitions for male ninjas. Woman. Haitu's face darkened slightly, and he didn't speak, but he didn't say much. On the other side, is the organizer of this 5 exhibitions conference. Cloud Shinobi Village Reikage, a tough guy muscular man with decent strength. The last one is the host this time, the leader of the neutral faction, Iron Country, Mifune.
The arrival of Tsunade and Miyamoto marks the official start of the Five Cages conference. Hokage, you are too late. On the face of Fourth Reikage, showing impatience and considerable hostility, he glanced at Tsunade and then at Miyamoto.
Hearing Fourth Reikage's words, a calm smile appeared on Tsunade's face. I'm sorry, on the way here, I encountered something. Tsunade and Fourth Reikage have met before, if you really want to say, Fourth Reikage still owes her a favor, and more importantly, with Miyamoto here, Tsunade has enough confidence. In the final analysis, the Five Cages meeting was a small war. Whoever was strong would speak hard. Tsunade knew very well that in such a situation, one should never be weak. Ask for flowers. Even if it was Fourth Reikage asking for an explanation from Konoha this time, it was the same, her aura was not weak either. Seeing that everyone was here, Mifune glanced at the crowd and said. The Hokage has arrived, please take your seats, all the guards. After Gokage was seated, Miyamoto and other guards retreated to one side, Mifune said. Then, let's start the Five Shadows talks. Sitting quite calmly on the seat, Miyamoto didn't care about the eyes of other people secretly looking at him, his eyes were flat, and he and Tamari Konkuro just nodded slightly to signal.
Just because Miyamoto doesn't care, doesn't mean other people don't care. The eyes of others, more or less, were focused on Miyamoto. Point 0. Miyamoto Musashi, Konoha's elite Jonin, whose strength has reached the shadow level, is famous for his lightning-style ninjutsu. He once sneaked into the land alone and destroyed a secret base in Iwagakure. According to the report, it was destroyed with just one move of lightning style. The leader of the three colors of Konoha, and now it is even more news that the wood style of first Hokage has reappeared on him. Whether it is true or not, there is no doubt that Miyamoto is the most powerful among the guards here. Not caring about other people, Miyamoto closed his eyes slightly, and opened his eyes of Kagura. The perception power spread out, directly covering the entire tower venue. As long as there was something strange, Miyamoto would be able to detect it. Yeah, the current 5 Kages conference has really changed a lot. Becoming a Kage at such a young age, the younger generation is really scary. At the beginning of the 5 Kages conference, Onogi was the first to speak. Among the people present, Onoki was the oldest and most qualified Kage. After finishing this sentence with some irony and emotion, Inoki's eyes were more on Kage Gaara. With a calm face, Gaara, who has completely adapted to her shadow identity, has no expression changes. Thank you for the compliment. That's why I'm sitting here as Kage. Hearing Gaara's words, Onogi's eyes flickered. Chapter 86. Women don't let their eyebrows 2/5. Chapter 86. He, you are really arrogant. Speaking of this, Onogi sneered, and didn't go on. No matter how young Gaara is, he is still a powerful figure after all. Too much is not good. Mizukage Terumi Mei had a strange smile on his face, and glanced at the other 4 shadows, with a smile on the corner of his mouth. What is the theme of our convening this time? The crusade against the Akatsuki organization, or the battle to retake the tailed beast? Not every Jinchuriki who has been extracted with a tailed beast can be as lucky as Gaara and be successfully rescued. Mizukage Terumi Mei's words made everyone look serious. When 4th Reikage convened the 5 Kages, he did not explain what the theme of this meeting would be. So it's not surprising that Mizukage asked this question.
397. I have something to say. Just after Mizukage finished speaking, Gaara raised her hand after pondering for a while, and said with a serious face. About Akatsuki. I was captured and killed once as a Jinchuriki, so I should have a say in this matter. This organization is absolutely dangerous like never before. I have sent requests and warnings to the 5 Kages many times, but they have not been taken seriously by you except for the Hokage. Until now, almost all the Jinchuriki in the major ninja villages have been arrested. Gone. Just after Gaara finished speaking, a huge momentum erupted. Boom. A punch hit the table, sawdust flying, Chakra on 4th Reikage rioted, his face was full of rage, and he looked at the 4 shadows present. Don't tell me such nonsense. Swish swish swish. At the moment 4th Reikage got angry, all the shadow guards from various villages came to his own shadow, confronting the others one after another.
Miyamoto folded his hands, his eyes were flat, his fingers were slightly raised, and the huge momentum on his body suppressed the people present without hesitation.
He didn't speak, but his gaze already showed Miyamoto's attitude. Once you do it, it will be a sure blow. The expressionless Miyamoto made everyone present look sideways, even Gokage was no exception. On Miyamoto, even Gokage felt oppressed. Not to mention the others. On Kuroto's forehead, there was cold sweat streaming down, just now because Miyamoto was looking at her legs. Kuroto, who was planning to teach Miyamoto a lesson, had no such thoughts at all at this moment. This kind of strength is not in one dimension at all, so it's a fart. Seeing this situation, Mifune's expression remained unchanged. This is already the normal state of the 5 Kages conference, and they don't really want to fight. The actions of the guards are just deterrents to strengthen their own prestige. This is also the secret of the great power. One of the contests. After a confrontation for a while, Mifune spoke. Okay, calm down, everyone. Since you've come here, it proves that you don't want to resort to force. Mifune's words did not have any influence on Miyamoto, and he still looked at the shadows and guards of other ninja villages. Seeing this, Mifune looked at Tsunade, and Tsunade, who understood, crossed his hands, solemnly and sharply, and said, Musashi, just step back for now. Hearing Tsunade's words, Miyamoto slowly lowered his raised fingers, and withdrew his momentum, looking at the other 4 shadow guards. Gaara's face was flat and she said, Tamari, Konkuro, it's alright. Mizukage Terumi Mei also smiled slightly and said, Retire too. Tsuchi Kage and Reikage also waved their hands to let their guards back down, and they sat down again. Because of such a play, everyone calmed down a little. After a while of silence, 4th Reikage, the initiator of this 5 Shadows conference, spoke directly. The members of the Akatsuki organization include Konoha, Sand Shinobi, Rock Shinobi, Mist Shinobi, the rebellious ninjas from your village. 4th Reikage's face was ugly, and at the same time, his eyes turned to Onogi, and he said. Also, some of you have used the Akatsuki organization before. Hearing this, coupled with the gazes of 4th Reikage, Tsunade Gaara and Terumi Mei, they all fell on Onogi unkindly. Konoha's catastrophe was caused by the Akatsuki organization. Kurigakure 4th Mizukage was once controlled, causing Kurigakure to go through the age of blood mist. Sunagakure's Kage Gaara was even captured and killed by the Akatsuki organization. It is absolutely impossible to reconcile the conflicts between the three villages in Akatsuki, and Onoki even hired Akatsuki to organize. It is quite normal to be hostile to Onoki. Facing the gazes of several people, the old Uchiha Onoki had a look of indifference on his face. As a shadow, it is basic common sense to seek the maximum benefits for the village at the minimum cost. Besides, this matter was a long time ago. Under the circumstances at that time, I don't know why I could refuse. It's just that I didn't expect that Shao to hide such a big conspiracy. It was a long time ago that Onogi hired Akatsuki, and it was just an employment relationship. Can it still be here? Can he be held responsible? Onoki wasn't worried at all. Fourth Reikage glanced coldly at Onogi, then said, HMPH. I don't care about these things, and I don't trust you either. The issue of the tailed beasts in Cloud Shinobi Village, we will solve it ourselves. This 5 shadow meeting, I have only one purpose. Hold you accountable. Having said that, Fourth Reikage looked fiercely at Feeling, with a cold face. Especially Konoha. First it was Orochimaru, then it was Uchiha Itachi. The most important thing is that now another Uchiha Sasuke has taken my brother. Hokage, you have to give me an explanation today. Bang. Click. 3.8 A slap on the table, the huge force caused the table to crack directly. Tsunade's eyes were sharp, his face was cold, and he smiled. Ridiculous. Explain. What do you want to explain? Tell me. Uchiha Sasuke has been Konoha's rebellious ninja a few years ago. What he wants to do, what he will do, what he did, has nothing to do with Konoha. Of course Konoha will not do anything for his actions responsible. Reikage wanted to explain, but found the wrong person. After the rather strong words were spoken, everyone present looked sideways. Tsunade is worthy of being the legendary Sannin, but this courage is undeniable. Thorn. But in the same way, if Tsunade is so tough, let Fourth Reikage run away directly. Hokage, what did you say? Chapter 87 A New Book of Milu. 3/5. Chapter 87. Facing Tsunade's tough attitude, the atmosphere on the spot became extremely tense. The aura exuded all over his body, and Reikage stood up like a raging lion. Swish. Reikage guards Darui and Shi, who realized that there might be a problem, came to Fourth Reikage one after another, with serious expressions on their faces. Boom. The berserk chakra erupted, and cracks appeared on the walls of the entire venue. Everyone turned their eyes and looked at Miyamoto, who was emitting this chakra visible to the naked eye, with a solemn expression. The floor under his feet was shattered because of chakra running wild, which shows his strength. Raising his eyes, Miyamoto looked at Fourth Reikage and the 2 guards beside him, his eyes full of oppression. You. A new elk to die once. Boom boom boom. Everyone's hearts have reached the peak, and they can clearly hear their own hearts beating faster because of nervousness, and everyone's foreheads are gradually covered with cold sweat. There is no doubt about Miyamoto's strength. If he really wants to go to war, it will be quite troublesome. The only person who was calm was probably Tsunade alone. Enough is enough. Musashi, we are not here to fight, but to choose allies. When the atmosphere reached its peak, the battle was imminent, and the 17 chakra fluctuations on Miyamoto's body reached the peak. Tsunade suddenly spoke. Hearing Tsunade's words, the chakra on Miyamoto retracted, and his face returned to calm. Yes, I see. Miyamoto withdrew his momentum. Tsunade looked at Fourth Reikage, and said.
Of course, the current Konoha has been severely damaged. Although there is no loss of personnel, the reconstruction of Konoha requires a lot of money. I'm not against war. After all, war reparations are very important to the current Konoha. Everyone was stunned, including Onogi, looking at Tsunade. It's like seeing a war madman. Behind him is like a greedy wolf who chooses a country to fight. At that moment, Seeing knew very well that Tsunade was really ambitious and wanted to go to war. As for the confidence, it was probably Wood style. Can we have a good talk? After speaking, Tsunade looked at Fourth Reikage and spoke. Sitting in his own seat, Miyamoto took a look at Gokage, who was finally able to officially start the discussion, and smiled in his heart. On the way here, Tsunade said that it might be like this, so I thought about it from the beginning. Just now, Miyamoto was playing a scene with Tsunade, and to put it bluntly, it was to deal with a muscular brain like Fourth Reikage. Although it is said that there is fineness in roughness, there is an old saying. Horrential and reckless. What happened to Konoha is no longer a secret in the 5 major countries. When they are extremely poor, the probability of launching a war and grabbing resources is as high as 80% to 90%. Although the Fourth Reikage has a muscle and a brain, it can become a shadow, which proves that the Fourth Reikage is thick and thin. Tsunade's superb acting skills, and the cooperation of Fumoto, the golden supporting role. This scene is perfect. It's kind of interesting. Seeing that Fourth Reikage finally spoke normally, Miyamoto smiled slightly. When watching the drama in the previous life, Miyamoto felt that Reikage was really funny. He looked so strong that he couldn't put himself in the right position at all. To be honest, Konoha's overall power added up, it's not a problem at all to fight Cloud Shinobi Village number. If you really want to fight, Cloud Shinobi Village will lose 80% to 90% of the time. Imagine that before, Konoha could handle 4 in one fight, although now there will be several lines of battle.
But definitely not too hard. After all, Sunagaku's fifth Kage Gaara has a pretty good relationship with Konoha. Even if he won't help, at least he won't participate in the war. It was good just now. Temari, who was sitting next to Miyamoto, suddenly spoke softly. In the situation just now, you and Master Hokage cooperated quite well. Frowning slightly, Miyamoto looked up at Temari beside him. Even the cunning Onoki has been fooled, but Temari who was beside him has not been fooled, and was seen through. Is she indeed the only female ninja who fights with her brain in Hokage? Taking a look at Temari, Ben was a little puzzled. How did you know? Temari smiled slightly and said. People who don't know you will of course be deceived by you, but if you think about it carefully, you will know that you have no intention of doing anything at all. Otherwise, you would not threaten at all, but would directly attack. Purple Thunder is used to using the simplest means to achieve the best results. A special strong man who can do black hands, but won't show up. Like your behavior just now, it's not your style at all. You are very similar to me, an existence that relies on brains to fight. Hearing Temari's words, Miyamoto was slightly taken aback, looked at Temari, and pondered for a while. You know me very well. Miyamoto's words made Temari stunned for a moment, blushed slightly, and then returned to normal, turned his head, looked at Gaara, and said. It's not wrong to know more about a strong man like you. In case, if Sunagaku and Konoha go to war in the future, they will inevitably fight against an existence like you. Although you won't win, but, at least it will make you feel troublesome.
Speaking of this, Temari's face is a little dignified. I really don't want to start a war with the current Konoha. No. Miyamoto said directly, with a certain color on his face. Miyamoto said. Others may not be, but Sunagaku and Konoha will not fight. These words made Temari's eyes light up, and he glanced at Miyamoto in a blink of an eye. His face was stupefied, and then he smiled. After a while, Miyamoto, who had closed his eyes, suddenly opened them, and said to himself. Coming. In Miyamoto's perception, several strands of 327 carats appeared, one of which was clearly felt by Miyamoto. Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Obito. And just so right, Tsunade at this moment is confiding all of Akatsuki's information. The news that Uchiha Madara, the big boss behind the Akatsuki organization, made the 5 Kages present all look solemn, and a legendary figure was involved. This was originally a political meeting of the 5 Kages, which began to change. Onoki questioned, but he had to believe it when Tsunade emphasized that Pain had Rinnegan. Who else can control the master of Rinnegan, except a legendary figure like Uchiha Madara? And, this is not without precedent. Mizukage Terumi Mei's complexion is slightly ugly. 4th Mizukage is an example that has been controlled for a long time. All the people present were pondering. For a while, Wukage didn't speak, but was thinking, if the Akatsuki organization is really controlled by Uchiha Madara behind, then what will happen next? Facing such an existence, coupled with the strength of the Akatsuki organization, in the current situation, a single country cannot cope. In other words, the alliance is inevitable. But everything has a premise, to confirm the authenticity of Tsunade's information. If it's really Uchiha Madara, Master Hokage. Miyamoto spoke suddenly, with flat eyes. Somebody is coming. Chapter 88. This Madara, a little weak 4/5. Chapter 88. Everyone was taken aback and looked at Miyamoto. Miyamoto didn't speak, just quietly looked at the central floor of the 5 people, with a smile on his face. Coming. Accompanied by Miyamoto's words, from the floor in the middle of Gokage, the spiral-like tree roots suddenly drilled out. Boom. In an instant, the tree roots parted, revealing White Zetsu with only half of his face inside. Hi. Hello everyone. Uchiha Sasuke has invaded. Where is he hiding? Let's find him together. Sting. Puff. In an instant, before everyone could react, Miyamoto's figure had arrived in front of White Zetsu, and the sword in his hand had already sunk into White Zetsu's head. Pathetic creation. You shouldn't even exist. Here, die completely. Crackling. The terrifying lightning stings the eyes of those present, and under the lightning, White Zetsu's body directly turned into a scorched black substance. Experts will know if there is one as soon as they make a move. Miyamoto's speed, lightning style's proficiency, just one move is enough to prove Miyamoto's strength. But shock is shock. 4th Raikage is quite angry, looking at Miyamoto. Why not let him finish talking about Uchiha Sasuke's whereabouts before killing him? Putting away his knife, Miyamoto glanced at 4th Raikage with a smile on his face. What am I going to do? Raikage, you have no right to control.
And, Uchiha Sasuke, you don't need to look for it, because... Swish swish swish, a burst of knife light flashed, and the flags marking the 5 major countries were cut off and slowly fell. Everyone looked up at the ceiling above their heads, and there was the figure of Uchiha Sasuke, standing there, holding the grass pheasant sword in his hand. Miyamoto's gaze flickered, mouth. Because he himself has come. All eyes fell on Uchiha Sasuke above his head. Even Gokage's face turned serious. Not to mention how about Uchiha Sasuke, but the great reputation of Sharingan, everyone present has experienced it personally. Because of Sharingan, no one will take Uchiha Sasuke lightly. Swish.
After glancing at the people present, Uchiha Sasuke landed at the main entrance, intending to stop everyone. Miyamoto stepped back in front of Tsunade, guarding Tsunade behind him, looking directly at Uchiha Sasuke. I haven't seen you for so many years. Uchiha Sasuke's growth is indeed impressive. Relying on Mangekyo Sharingan, it is Kage-level strength. Without Mangekyo Sharingan, it should be elite Jonin. As for the original killing Deidara, that doesn't count. Deidara was dazzled by his art. If not, Sasuke couldn't kill him. Fourth Raikage, who was about to kill Uchiha Sasuke just now with an irritable face, still has killing intent, but he didn't do it immediately. Uchiha Sasuke. Ignoring Fourth Raikage, Uchiha Sasuke looked at Miyamoto and Tsunade. When he saw Miyamoto, his eyes were serious, but then he relaxed and looked at Tsunade. Where is Hokage? Danzo. Hearing Uchiha Sasuke's words, Tsunade frowned. Danzo. I went to Konoha, but Danzo isn't there. Uchiha Sasuke spoke, looking at Tsunade. You are Hokage. Danzo's whereabouts, you should be very clear. Tell me, where is Danzo? Boom! There was a sudden explosion, and before Tsunade could answer, Uchiha Sasuke had just finished speaking when a figure with a dense body of light drove directly in front of Uchiha Sasuke. Fourth Raikage's face was full of anger, one hand was covered with lightning-style chakra, and the ninjutsu of Cloud Shinobi Village exploded directly. What arrogance! Smelly brat! Lightning-style Lei Li Hot Chu. Like a hand knife blazing blue fire, it slashed at Uchiha Sasuke directly. The speed was so fast that Uchiha Sasuke had no ability to react at all. A pair of eyes, looking at the knife in his hand, full of horror. Boom!
Uchiha Sasuke's body was directly blasted out, broke through the main entrance and the wall, and was sent flying for an unknown distance. Swish! In an instant, the figure of Fourth Raikage chased him out. I am so sorry. Darui, who was guarding Raikage, apologized, and Hexy quickly followed. Tsunade stood up, glanced at Miyamoto, and chased outside.
Musashi, let's go take a look. Uchiha Sasuke, after all, is also a member of Konoha, if he is killed, at least.
Do not let the Sharingan be acquired. Tsunade and Miyamoto chased it out, and Gaara also rushed out directly. All three of Gokage went, Mizukage, Terumime and Onogi looked at each other, and then followed out directly. The meeting is no longer necessary, after all, it involves legends, and there is only one charter. Form an alliance. When the group came outside, they saw the members of Uchiha Sasuke's team who were confronting Raikage, and
Uzumaki Maskman, real body Uchiha Obito. The gathering of the five shadows made Sasuke and the others on the opposite side a little nervous, but Uchiha Obito, as always, had a normal conversation. Looking at the purple skeleton on Uchiha Sasuke's body, Miyamoto understood why there was nothing wrong with him. In the entire Hokage world, Susanoo can be called the forefront in terms of defense. It is quite normal to withstand a blow from a thunderplow and a hot knife. But maybe it was the first time it was used, it was too weak, and part of its skeleton was broken. After everyone arrives, oh ho, all here. Uchiha Obito, who claimed to be Uchiha Madara, stood up at this moment and looked at the crowd. Just right. Save me from going to you one by one. Uchiha Obito, looking at the crowd, slowly exudes a huge momentum. My name, Uchiha Madara, believe you, you should all know me. As soon as this statement came out, everyone present was quite serious. This aura is indeed powerful, but it is not as good as Miyamoto's aura. Although the faces of all the people present were dignified, doubts appeared on their faces. Madara. You shut up. Panting, trembling body, Zhao Qian Zhao, Uchiha Sasuke stood up again and looked at Tsunade.
Hokage Danzo, where is it? A pair of Mangekyo Sharingan, extremely eye-catching, looking at everyone, quite a deterrent. Seeing this scene, Uchiha Obito didn't speak, just stood like this, and Uchiha Sasuke was still making trouble. Anyway, it doesn't affect his plan. Uchiha Obito stepped back slightly. Onoki watched quietly, his eyes flickered slightly, thinking in his heart. Would Madara have people yelling at him? No way. This guy shouldn't be Uchiha Madara paper. But Onoki wasn't sure. It's been too long, who knows if the years have changed during this time Uchiha Madara. Without seeing the face, Onoki couldn't be sure. Having said that, Onoki still has a word in his heart. This Uchiha Madara, a little weak. Chapter 89 Little Abuse Kills Gay 5/5. Chapter 89. Watching back Uchiha Obito. Miyamoto shook his head secretly in his heart. This is the charm of Lord Madara. His identity is definitely not something that Uchiha Obito, who has more than 2 years in middle school, can play. Think about it. Uchiha Madara bit off a piece of meat from Senju Hashirama when he was on the verge of death in the Battle of the Valley of the End. It was still impossible to have Uchiha Sasuke standing in front of him. As Uchiha Madara, this is a failure. But what Miyamoto is interested in now is not Uchiha Obito, but
Uchiha Sasuke, who is well versed in the way of pretense, has greatly increased his confidence after opening his own Mangekyo Sharingan. Uchiha Sasuke, obsessed with Danzo's hatred, once again ignores Fourth Raikage, keeping his eyes on Tsunade. Hokage. Where is Danzo? Tell me, otherwise. Otherwise, what do you want? Miyamoto rushed out instantly, and said with a sneer. Swish. Leaping high, Miyamoto looked up at Uchiha Sasuke with a serious look on his face. Uchiha Sasuke. Long time no see, lightning-style Tenshoutsu. Boom. Tenshojiao already possessed quite terrifying strange power, coupled with the terrifying speed obtained after activating 250 lightning-style cells. The power is definitely not as simple as 1+1. Miyamoto's Tenshu kicked Uchiha Sasuke's Susanoo with a terrifying speed not less than half a point behind Raikage. Click. This is the first time that Susanoo, who is quite fragile, shattered directly under this blow, and Miyamoto's Tenshu foot fell directly on Uchiha Sasuke's body. Puff. With a mouthful of flying blood, Uchiha Sasuke's eyes widened in disbelief, watching Miyamoto look down into his own eyes, hit hard, speechless. After kicking Susanoo with one move, the power was weakened, but it was still not to be underestimated. Uchiha Sasuke's falling body shattered the ground and rebounded. Snapped. The left hand grabbed Uchiha Sasuke's neck and pulled it down in front of him. At that time, do you remember what I said? Waiting for this day to come. Uchiha Sasuke. Waiting for you to come to me as a traitor, to come to me as your Mangekyo Sharingan. Then, Jung. The chakra sword was pulled out in an instant, and Miyamoto's face showed a killing intent, and he said. Kill you. Swish swish swish. On the left and the right, Gaidang Shuei and Shigego directly charged at Miyamoto. On Chongo's face, the most advanced sage transformation appeared, directly attacking Miyamoto. And the beheading sword of Gaidang Shuei, with all his strength, slashed towards Miyamoto's arm. Facing the attacks of these two people, Miyamoto frowned and made a seal with one hand. Do not bother me. Bang bang. Two huge tree roots turned directly from Miyamoto's feet and directly entangled sage transformations Shigego and Gaidang Shuei's beheading sword. Chongo's strength is strong, but Miyamoto's wood style is not a joke. The restrained Chongo was suppressed by Miyamoto before he struggled a few times. Not only did he quit sage transformation, but he even fell into a coma past. And after the beheading sword of Gaidang Shuei was restrained, he raised his finger and faced Miyamoto. Raising his hand and slashing at the finger of the ghost lamp, Miyamoto turned his head at the same time, looking at the ghost lamp Suigetsu with sharp eyes. Phantom falling Sakura Naomi technique. Gaidang Shuei paused, then slowly fell to the ground, fell into a coma, and did not wake up even though his finger was broken. Uchiha Obito's face under the mask is quite dignified, and the Sharingan in the right eye, directly forming Kamui Mangekyo, looks at Uchiha Sasuke in Miyamoto's hand. A sense of distortion in the space was formed. Miyamoto froze for a moment, felt this force pulling him. After hesitating for a moment, he let go of Uchiha Sasuke's hand, dodged and stepped back. The moment Miyamoto stepped back, the figure of fourth Raikage rushed out, aiming at Uchiha Obito. Die. Lateral bolt of pain. BHBE, however, this momentum and power belonged to the top move, which was directly ignored by Uchiha Obito, Uchiha Madara in the eyes of others. Fourth Raikage's attack went straight through Uchiha Obito's body and fell to the ground on one side. What? This weird scene made everyone present shocked. Looking at Uchiha Obito, it was a little hard to believe. Miyamoto said nonchalantly. There's nothing surprising about it. That's just time-space ninjutsu, it can ignore all attacks, it's not a big deal. Hearing Miyamoto's words, everyone pondered and did not speak. Is this ability really bad? No, it's better to say the opposite. Calmly taking away all the members of Sasuke's team, Uchiha Obito breathed a sigh of relief. If Miyamoto stopped, he would not be able to save other people so easily, at most Uzumaki Korin and Uchiha Sasuke. With the exit of Uchiha Sasuke, the nerves of the people present tensed up. Uchiha Madara, the name, has a deterrent effect like a nuclear bomb. Miyamoto looked directly at Uchiha Obito. It was a look that sees through, understands, and seems to understand everything. This made Uchiha Obito feel a little suspicious, but on the surface, he remained calm and sank to the ground, and then reappeared on the tower on one side, and the blood-red Sharingan looked at everyone. Then, following what I just said, first of all, I will explain one thing to you, about my purpose. Project Tsuki no Mi. After hearing Uchiha Obito's words, Miyamoto had no intention of intervening, just looked at Uchiha Obito, and returned to Tsunade's side. Glancing at Miyamoto, Tsunade is slightly concerned. Are you alright? The space-time ninjutsu just now had an effect on Miyamoto, so Tsunade had to worry. After hearing Tsunade's words, the eyes of others also fell on Miyamoto. If it is really Uchiha Madara, then only wood style can match Uchiha Madara's power. Moreover, Miyamoto's shot just now did win the approval of the people present, just like Temari's evaluation. The easiest way to achieve the greatest results. Fine. Miyamoto shook his head and looked at Uchiha Obito. Let's listen to Uchiha Madara's project Tsuki no Mi. What is it? After hearing Miyamoto's words, everyone present looked at Uchiha Obito, who was leaning against the moon and looking at everyone. In the following time, through the mouth of Uchiha Obito, the secrets of 7 parts of the truth and 3 parts of the falsehood were fully revealed. About Eye of the Moon, about Tailed Beast, about Sage of 6 Paths, about Infinite Tsukuyomi. Everything was told to everyone present, hearing all this people. While stupefied, a terrifying pressure filled everyone's hearts. Chapter 90 Danzo 1/5 Chapter 90 10 minutes later, Uchiha Obito said everything. What nonsense. The world will not be handed over to you. After hearing Uchiha Obito finished saying Project Tsuki no Mi, the grumpy Lei Ying interrupted directly. Your piece is meaningless at all. Gaara's eyes are serious, looking at King Uchiha. Don't dream, we won't give you 8 tails and 9 tails. The world will not fall into your hands. The other few shadows also expressed their opinions, and it is rare to unanimously speak out. When facing Uchiha Madara, a man who owns a 7-headed and tailed beast and tries to control the whole world, it is about the fate of the world. Let them temporarily put aside their prejudices. Really? Then get ready to go to war? I have 7-tailed beasts, you have no chance of winning. Having said that, Uchiha Obito's eyes fell on Miyamoto. Hashirama's wood style. How far can you play, then? By the next time we meet, it will be on the battlefield. To hear the words of Uchiha Obito, Miyamoto didn't speak, the muscles on his body tensed instantly, and he burst into ultimate speed instantly. It's like teleporting. Chakra cut across an afterimage, cut down the middle, and slashed towards Uchiha Obito's body. So fast. The complexion under the mask changed dramatically, without any hesitation, he directly transferred himself, but... Puff. The feeling of the sharp knife piercing into the flesh spread to Miyamoto's hands, his eyes flickered slightly, but he didn't speak. Uchiha Obito has disappeared, everyone looked at Miyamoto with surprise on their faces. Hurt Uchiha Madara. Tsunade was a little proud, the other 3 shadows looked at him like a torch, Onogi said. Konoha. Really has a lot of talents. Hearing Onogi's words, everyone nodded, agreeing with this sentence very much. War. The 4th Ninja World War is about to begin, but this time, it is especially important for the 5 great nations. No one does not take seriously the war that gambles on the fate of the world. After Uchiha Obito left, the 5 Kage's meeting continued, but this time, it was a pre-war meeting to reach an agreed goal to form the Ninja Federation. After preliminarily confirming some things, the 5 Shadows Conference officially came to an end. This is a ninja war, and similarly, this is also a war with the core goal of protecting 8 tails and 9 tails, no matter what ambitions Uchiha Madara has, as long as 8 tails and 9 tails do not fall into his hands, it would not be a failure. The news that Killer Bee is still alive is no secret. After negotiating, the 5 Kages set off on their own way back, and Miyamoto and Tsunade headed back. The most important thing right now is to protect Uzumaki Naruto, although Tsunade believes that Uzumaki Naruto may not need to be protected, but can be put into the battlefield as a high-end combat power. However, Tsunade can't be too arbitrary in the decision of the other movies. After all, Uzumaki Naruto and Killer Bee are related to the future of this world. Master Tsunade Danzo has left the village, and I don't think it will be peaceful on our way back. On the way back, Miyamoto said pointedly. Well, let's talk about it later. Tsunade nodded with a serious face, and there was a hint of killing intent in his eyes. Tsunade didn't have a good impression of Danzo at all, and it was just difficult to strike in the village. Once it comes out, it may not be necessary. Tsunade still understands this principle. Earlier, Danzo sold the news of Konoha's defense arrangement to Akatsuki, which proved that he had a connection with Akatsuki. Don't get rid of Danzo, a shit-stirring stick. If there is a real war, God knows what crazy things he will do for his ambition. Tsunade is quite disturbed by such a man who has no bottom line. Swish. 2 figures, Miyamoto and Tsunade, were speeding across the plank road between the valleys. Whoosh whoosh all of a sudden, countless shurikens and kunais shot towards the 2 of them. The speed was so fast that a cold light flashed on Miyamoto's face, and he came directly in front of Tsunade. His hands were already sealed. Earth-style earth wall. A tall earthen wall stood in front of them. Tsunade and Miyamoto looked at each other and backed away at the same time. Rumble. The detonating symbol exploded and directly shattered the wall of the earth formation. Miyamoto and Tsunade looked at each other. A group of elite ninjas with Konoha forehead protectors had appeared, and behind them, Danzo and a group of ninjas appeared on a high platform, squinting their eyes, with a slight smile on their faces. Danzo. Gritting his teeth, Tsunade showed killing intent on his face, looking at Danzo. How is this going? Having made up his mind, Tsunade still asked. Ask for flowers. Looking at Miyamoto and Tsunade, Danzo's old voice sounded. You actually understand it in your heart, right, Tsunade? The pen invasion has proved that you are no longer suitable for Hokage. Hearing this, although he had expected it, Tsunade still didn't believe it. Senhan looked at Danzo and asked sharply. You, Danzo, you want to kill me? Tsunade's words, Danzo shook his head and said. I won't kill you. After all, it's not easy to explain to the village, but It's definitely going to be 6th Hokage. Whether it's you, or Miyamoto Musashi, you will obediently obey me, assist me, and use my eye to achieve this goal. 0. While speaking, Danzo has already unlocked his right eye, revealing the 3-tomo Sharingan inside. Seeing this scene, Tsunade's face was serious. Sure enough. The Uchiha family exterminated the whole family just because you wanted to get the Sharingan. With a serious look on his face, Tsunade took off his Hokage hat, took off his windbreaker, casually threw it aside, and looked at Danzo. Musashi, Super S rank mission, the former Hokage assistant Shimura Danzo rebelled, kill him with all your strength. Hearing Tsunade's words, Miyamoto's eyes flashed, he jumped up, lightning-style chakra wrapped his hand and punched it down. Strange power fist. At the same time, Tsunade also turned around, raised his long legs, and slammed them down. Heaven guards the feet. The two men started at the same time, under the action of huge force. Boom. The bluestone plank road was directly smashed, and the huge force directly attacked Danzo and the people organized by Root, forcing these people to disperse. Miyamoto looked up at the jumping Danzo, and made a mudra with one hand. Wood-style wooden dragon technique. Snapped. He slapped the ground, and the next moment a huge wooden dragon broke through the ground and rushed towards Danzo in the air. Facing Miyamoto's wooden dragon technique, Danzo had already opened Shikai's seal when Miyamoto and Tsunade both started to fight, and finally undid it, forming seals with both hands. Wind-style vacuum Daidama, wind-style vacuum Lianbo. Chapter 91 Small Battle Danzo 2/5 Chapter 91 Boom. The two ninjutsu directly attacked Miyamoto's wooden dragon. This extremely powerful ninjutsu only left scars on the wooden dragon's body, and it had no effect on Wood-style's self-healing. Miyamoto smiled slightly, chakra urged, die once. Accompanied by Miyamoto's voice, Sleepy Dragon technique went straight to suppress the group. Boom. Smoke and dust filled the air. Miyamoto didn't even look at where Danzo was. He took out a kunai, poured it into wind-style chakra, and shot it towards his right hand. Wind-style kunai. The goal of wind-style kunai. Yamanaka Fungjung was squatting on the ground, forming a seal with his hands, which was the Yamanaka family's secret art heart-turning, but just after his seal was formed, the kunai injected into wind-style chakra was about to come to him. Hateful. A fatal sense of crisis came. Yamanaka's 307 style did not hesitate at all, and instantly avoided Miyamoto's kunai. Shifting his position, Kage's Yamanaka was about to strike again, raised his own, and the moment he made a seal. Clang. Puff. It's too slow. At the same time as the voice sounded, the light of the sword had already fallen. Miyamoto's chakra Teidao, under the blessing of wind-style chakra, was extremely sharp, and directly cut off Yamanaka's hands. At the same time, Miyamoto's hand grabbed Yamanaka's body. While turning around and turning to the back, Yamanaka Feng's body was already blocked in front of him by Guanben. Puff. A knife wrapped around the purple and blackened arm, directly pierced through Yamanaka Feng's heart, and while killing Yamanaka Feng on the spot, stretched out. With a flash of eyes, Miyamoto raised the sword in his hand, and at the same time that this hand flew into the sky, Miyamoto jumped up behind his body, throwing several shurikens directly. This is... Aburame couldn't control the pain in his arm, and the other end of the steel wires that bound himself to Yamanaka Feng's body was in my hands. Chi. The sound of detonating talisman igniting sounded, and Aburame's face changed dramatically, and he saw clearly the front of Yamanaka Feng, and pasted 5 or 6 detonating talismans. Fire style. Miyamoto's voice sounded, a surge of chakra. Dragon fire technique. In an instant, the steel wire in Miyamoto's hand, with a terrifying flame, fell on the two of them in an instant along the steel wire. Boom. Limbs flying, bloody. In a few seconds, under Danzo's hands, Yamanaka Feng and Aburame, who were regarded as top masters, fell directly, and even Aburame's poisonous insect secret technique of rooting was not able to be released. Poison, no matter what profession it is, unless you are invulnerable to all poisons, otherwise, it is really disgusting. Nanoscale poisonous insects, that thing, are more dangerous than ordinary poisons. Knowing that Danzo cannot be killed in a short time, Miyamoto naturally has to deal with it first. Aburame takes the root and Yamanaka wins. Miyamoto Musashi. Sure enough, before you grew up, he should have found a chance to kill you. Danzo's figure, who doesn't know when, has reappeared, and after seeing the dead faces of his two subordinates, he said, "Well, forget it. Now. This is good, just right, the eye surgery is ready."
The 3-tomo Sharingan in the right eye has formed a 4-cornered windmill, and Danzo looks at Miyamoto. Miyamoto Musashi. Surrender to me, hum. A terrifying pupil force rushed into Miyamoto's mind, trying to tamper with Miyamoto's will. Close your eyes, the eyes under the eyelids have become Mangekyo Sharingan.
A huge pupil power emanated out, increasing Miyamoto's own resistance while weakening the invading pupil power.
The horror of the pupil technique lies in the power of the pupil. Uchiha Shisui's distinguished heavenly gods is quite scary, but he doesn't use it himself, and Danzo with only one eye, it is impossible not to use the distinguished heavenly gods these years, even though it is supported by first generation's wood style. However, how much pupil power can I have? I'm afraid I'm about to go blind.
And Miyamoto's own Mangekyo Sharingan pupil technique, there are some special.
Perhaps because of cheat, it has become a means of auxiliary classes. Right eye augment Miyamoto himself by any means. The left eye weakened, weakening any means by which Miyamoto focused. Theoretically, There is no limit, but pupil power is limited, so naturally it is impossible to be truly infinite. The future is not certain. Miyamoto's strength has risen, and this ability is more useful than Rinnegan.
Watching Miyamoto close his eyes, Danzo had a smile on his face. No one can resist the distinguished heavenly gods. From now on, Miyamoto Musashi, you will be the sharpest sword in my hand, wood style, mine. Thinking of this, Danzo was about to lower his eyes, and looked aside Tsunade who was about to deal with all the root ninjas. Miyamoto. Take Tsunade. Clang, puff. As soon as Danzo's words fell, a knife flashed, and his head flew in the air. Danzo looked at Miyamoto with disbelief on his face.
Why? Before he finished speaking, his figure gradually disappeared, and in a blink of an eye, he reappeared on the other side. Looking at Miyamoto, Danzo's face was full of dignity. You didn't win, distinguished heavenly gods. Hearing Danzo's words, Miyamoto flicked the bloodline on the chakra dagger in his hand. No, I won, but if I don't give you a chance, I won't win. Frowning, looking at Miyamoto, Danzo's face is cold. Then why? Thorn. A flash of thunder flashed, and Miyamoto's figure was as fast as before, and he came to Danzo's side. Without answering, he shot directly. Without any hesitation, Danzo directly took out a kunai and raised his hand to block Miyamoto's chakra sword. Ding! Sparks flew. Miyamoto's face showed a sneer. He lifted his foot, and kicked Danzo out at an extremely fast speed without giving Danzo a chance to react. Zilla. With lightning-style chakra condensed in his hand, Ben looked at Danzo's body. Lightning-style Chidori sharp gun. Puff. The sharp Chidori spear split Danzo's body in half from bottom to top and directly from the middle. When the body landed on the ground, it disappeared slowly again, and Danzo's 3.9 figure emerged from another place, looking at Miyamoto calmly. It's useless, you can't kill me. Come and help me. Your strength should be used on the battlefield fighting for Konoha, not on missions. Swish. There was a sound of breaking through the air, and Miyamoto's figure rushed towards Danzo again, with a sneer on his face.
Really? Then I'll give it a try, Miyamoto sneered, and rushed directly to Danzo, holding the chakra sword in his hand, and approached in an instant. Konoha Ryu swordsmanship, dance of the crescent moon. In an instant, 3 afterimages landed in front of Danzo. Jung. A knife light pierced Danzo's shoulder blade fiercely, and Miyamoto's figure also appeared in front of Danzo, and the two just looked at each other.
Swish. Danzo shot. Chapter 92 The Pros and Cons of Illusion 3/5. Chapter 92. Crack. Grabbing Miyamoto's neck, Danzo's face showed a grin. Miyamoto Musashi. It's a pity. Too much arrogance is the reason for your failure today. Ha ha ha. Die. Own curse technique. Starting from the neck, black curse marks covered Miyamoto's whole body, tightly covering Miyamoto's body, one layer after another. Miyamoto's face changed drastically. Looking at Danzo who was close at hand, his eyes turned with difficulty, his face was full of panic. How is it possible? Looking at Miyamoto with a sneer, Danzo's figure disappeared, and then appeared in front of him again. Nothing is impossible. It's a pity that your wood style is gone, Miyamoto Musashi. Holding a kunai, Danzo stabbed directly at Miyamoto's forehead, intending to kill Yingmoto with one blow. Facing Danzo's attack, Miyamoto chuckled suddenly, making Danzo's movements pause. 4 times. You were fatally wounded 4 times and died 4 times. Now, right now, it's going to be the 5th time. Miyamoto opened his mouth and said. Danzo stared, and a sense of danger appeared. Years of combat experience made Danzo retreat without hesitation. At this moment, Miyamoto suddenly sealed. Ninja. Clone blast. Boom. Carrying the huge chakra clone, the power of the explosion was even greater than the power used by Uchiha Itachi. The terror caused Danzo, who had not withdrawn from a safe distance, to have his limbs shattered again. Oh, it's pretty good. Clone blast is indeed Itachi's favorite method. Apart from the uncomfortable feeling of tearing the clone, this move is quite good. From the shadow of the stone pillar on one side, Miyamoto stepped out with a flat face, looking at Danzo who appeared again on the other side. What's the matter? I thought that a strong man like you should be able to easily detect that it's just a shadow clone. Danzo, you are weaker than I thought. Without the invincibility time brought by Sharingan Izanagi, your old rival, 3rd Hokage, is much stronger than you. And, it's been 2 minutes now, how long can your Sharingan keep you going? Miyamoto's words finally changed Danzo's face. His whole cards have been seen. Under such circumstances, it is very unwise to continue fighting with Miyamoto. Glancing at the other side, Tsunade, who was about to end the battle, Danzo made a decision in his heart. Retreat first today. Danzo is quite clear about the pros and cons of advancing and retreating. Aware of Danzo's intentions, Miyamoto had a mocking smile on his face. Danzo. Do you know, why have you never won 3rd Hokage in your life? Why have you failed to become Hokage after all your tricks? Swish. With a flash, Miyamoto kept running on top of the ruins, and quickly approached Danzo. Why is Sanmu Hokage dead, and your former teammate Mitokata Homura and Haru, let Tsunade come to the film, and don't recommend you? Frowning, Danzo looked at Miyamoto's movements, making mudras with both hands. Wind-style vacuum sphere. Invisible air bombs like machine guns shot towards Miyamoto densely. With the mudra of both hands, the whole body of Miyamoto condenses water drops out of thin air. Water-style water bomb technique. Bang 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 bang.
Between the two, one after another exploded. Under Miyamoto's precise control, Danzo's vacuum sphere, without exception, was all taken over by Miyamoto. Do you want to know? Because no one thinks you have what it takes to be a Hokage. In other words, no one recognizes you for everything you do. All your life, there is no way to become Hokage. Your dream is just a bubble, just a dream made up by yourself unwillingly. Hokage, what Danzo has been obsessed with all his life, even now, he continues to take huge risks to attack and kill Tsunade in order to achieve his goal of becoming Hokage, and even keep destroying Konoha in order to realize his dream of becoming Hokage. In Danzo's heart, Hokage is his reverse scale. You're talking nonsense.
Before being attacked by Miyamoto's words, Danzo didn't care about it before, but when Miyamoto denied his lifelong pursuit, he finally couldn't help it, rampaged. Danzo thought about what Miyamoto said, and instantly. The mood is broken. Ma. In the eyes, Mangekyo Sharingan appeared, eyes closed and opened, Miyamoto's hands in mudra. Amplification illusion Narakumi technique. Amplification illusion Kasumi servant technique. The right eye augmentation, Miyamoto's Narakumi technique and Kasumi servant technique, directly let Danzo fall into the world of illusion, and at the same time, the weakening of the left eye, while focusing on Danzo, applied it to Uzumaki.
Weaken. After doing all this, Miyamoto's eyes closed and returned to normal. After his pupil technique is applied, there is no need to continue to open Mangekyo Sharingan. There is nothing wrong with the right eye, but blood and tears flowed from the left eye. The risk is much lower when the increase is applied to oneself. While the weakening of the left eye affects others, the consumption is naturally more. Because of Miyamoto's huge pupil power, the left eye is not often used. Seeing Danzo standing still, Miyamoto had a smile on his face. Just like that, time began to pass slowly. Miyamoto looked at the Sharingan on Danzo's arm, closing them one by one, counting the time in his mind. Swish. Tsunade came to Miyamoto's side with a messy breath, looked at Danzo's appearance, and couldn't help frowning. Because of the illusion? Miyamoto nodded and said. The 733 who are least likely to fall into illusion in this world are paranoid, because their will is really too strong. The people in this world who are most likely to fall into illusion are also paranoid, because their will is too easy to manipulate. People like Danzo either miss or are poisoned. Miyamoto's words made Tsunade nod his head, and there was some unbearable look in Danzo's eyes after all, but only a trace. Thinking of what Danzo wanted to do today, this trace of unbearable dissipated. After Tsunade took a few glances, he frowned, going to wake up. Hearing this, Miyamoto made a seal and looked at Danzo.
It's useless to wake up. His invincible time has already been used up. On Danzo's arm, the last 3 Tomo Sharingan slowly lost its luster and closed slowly. Boom. Kneeling on the ground, Danzo was gasping for breath, his face was pale, God knows what happened to him in the illusion world, and he kept pushing Izanagi, but there was no way to escape.
It's over. Miyamoto spoke quietly, and the chakra on his body exploded. Wood-style cutting technique. Boom. Beside Danzo, several trees burst out of the ground, and the sharp branches directly inserted into Danzo's body. A burst of space distortion, then, Amaterasu, Chapter 93 beating him blind 4/5. Chapter 93. Amaterasu. Uchiha Sasuke's eyes were full of hatred. As soon as he came out, he used his left eye pupil technique.
Known as the Eternal Black Flame, Amaterasu. Amaterasu landed on top of Miyamoto's wood style, wrapping Danzo in the middle. The sudden appearance of Amaterasu's attack made Miyamoto's heart condense, and he looked up at Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Obito who appeared on the side. When Miyamoto looked at Sasuke, a deadly sense of crisis welled up in his heart, and the lightning flashed on his body. Lightning-style Lei Shun. Miyamoto's body dodged in an instant, and Tsunade's speed was also not slow, leaving the original position directly.
The two had just left, and the Amaterasu flame appeared out of thin air directly where the two were standing. Thorn. Miyamoto's figure appeared again, and he had already come to the other side, holding a sword and holding his hands. Miyamoto had a sneer on his face. Sasuke, you were quite capable, but compared to Itachi, you are far behind. If Itachi's Amaterasu is used, even I may die if I don't pay attention. And you? Not qualified enough. A seal was formed with one hand. Under Danzo's feet, a giant tree grew out of the ground, directly wrapped Danzo, who was in a daze because of the mental damage, and twisted it on the trunk, only showing a head. After doing all this, Miyamoto looked to Uchiha Sasuke. But, as a reward for your courage to attack me, I will teach you a truth instead of Itachi. To the strong, maintain the most basic respect. Speaking of which, Miyamoto didn't even look at Tsunade. Master Tsunade. Is it okay? Kill Uchiha Sasuke. Looking at Miyamoto's posture, Tsunade knew that there was some grievance between Miyamoto and Uchiha Sasuke, so he insisted on killing Uchiha Sasuke. Uchiha Sasuke or Miyamoto, who is more important? Tsunade doesn't need to think at all.
Be careful. After saying this, Tsunade began to restore his own chakra, and looked at Uchiha Obito, who stepped aside with a pair of eyes rather sharply. Base. Pulling out the chakra sword behind him, Miyamoto walked towards Uchiha Sasuke, faster and faster. Sting. The thunder light flashed on his body, Miyamoto launched a lightning flash, and instantly killed Uchiha Sasuke. Sasuke. Let's fight. Uchiha Sasuke backquote. Making mudras with both hands, Uchiha Sasuke looked solemn as he watched Miyamoto approaching. Fire-style Great Fireball Technique. Boom. The Great Fireball Technique, nicknamed the non-killing ninjutsu, has almost become the starting move of the Uchiha clan. After releasing the Great Fireball Technique, Uchiha Sasuke's body ran from the side in 10 seconds. Keep a distance, and you must not be approached by him. When Uchiha Sasuke fought against Miyamoto as a child, he knew that Miyamoto's physical skills were quite sturdy.
Get close. For Miyamoto's tactics, put distance, use ninjutsu, use Mangekyo Sharingan, use Hitomi Jutsu. This point at the 5 Kages conference, the short fight. No, not a fight, with Uchiha Sasuke's character, I have to admit one thing. That is completely unilateral crushing and massacre. Kicking his strongest defense Susanoo, Uchiha Sasuke definitely doesn't want to try that trick again. Facing the Great Fireball Technique, Miyamoto sneered, jumped up, dodged the blow, and instantly locked his eyes on the wandering Uchiha Sasuke. Years of fighting intuition made Miyamoto understand his plan in an instant.
Seeing Miyamoto's figure, lightning style thousand birds. Uchiha Sasuke's eyes flashed, and Mangekyo Sharingan directly locked onto Miyamoto, his hands formed a seal instantly, and countless small thousands of copies of lightning-style chakra condensed, overwhelmingly killed Miyamoto. Wind-style Great Breakthrough. Fire-style Great Fireball Technique. After Chiandori Chinban, seals again, the wind helps the fire, this combination of ninjutsu, Miyamoto once used.
Boom. A shadow clone appeared under the foot. Miyamoto stepped on the shadow clone, and jumped up again. The shadow clone also fell because of this foot, and was not hit by Chidori Chiban. After landing, the shadow clone seals instantly, wind-style harm. And Miyamoto's body is the same seal, facing the attack of Uchiha Sasuke. Fire-style head hard. The same combined ninjutsu, the difference is the power. Directly engulfing Uchiha Sasuke's ninjutsu, Miyamoto's fire became even more intense, sweeping directly towards Uchiha Sasuke, and everywhere he passed, there was no place that was not burned to black, and even some land began to melt. Boom. After the ninjutsu, Miyamoto's body fell to the ground, and looked up to where Uchiha Sasuke, who hadn't escaped. It's almost. Expectation flashed in Miyamoto's eyes, but his face was calm. To fight Uchiha Sasuke, Miyamoto had only one purpose, to overuse his Mangekyo Sharingan, and then Uchiha Obito, who got Itachi's eyes, transplanted Itachi's eyes to him. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Miyamoto is bound to win. Even Rinnegan and Miyamoto can be given up, but Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Miyamoto must be obtained. Miyamoto's two pupil techniques can be said to be heaven-defying, no matter what, he must get the Eternal Eye. After watching the flames go out, Uchiha Sasuke was surrounded by a huge Susanoo, flesh and blood. It's Susanoo of Stage 3. Uchiha Sasuke, kneeling on the ground, covering one of his eyes, looked at Miyamoto, panting. 11. How strong is he? Facing anyone who can pretend to be aggressive, even Uchiha Sasuke who is worthy of Uchiha Madara, think about it carefully. Never played hard on Miyamoto. Since I was a child, there is no more, probably because Miyamoto has become Miyamoto's nightmare. Miyamoto had a slight smile on his face, looked at Uchiha Sasuke's Susanoo, and said contemptuously. Stage 3 Susanoo. This is your confidence, Wang Wang's. Then I will be disappointed to some extent. Itachi's Susanoo is in the 4th stage. Folding his hands, Miyamoto didn't seem to pay attention to Uchiha Sasuke at all, just waiting for his next move. However, Miyamoto's words made Uchiha Obito's face dignified under the mask. Not only do you know the secret of Mangekyo Sharingan's pupil technique, does even Susanoo know that much? Looking at the figure of Miyamoto, Uchiha Obito thought. Could it be that he and Itachi have fought against each other before? But Kisame said that Itachi and Miyamoto have fought against each other twice? Miyamoto Musashi. Who the hell? Not knowing what Uchiha Obito was thinking, Miyamoto looked at Uchiha Sasuke and made a decision in his heart. Here today. Beat Uchiha Sasuke blind. Chapter 94 Mature Body Susanoo 5/5. Chapter 94. Panting wildly, Uchiha Sasuke couldn't help shaking. The risk of opening Susanoo is quite huge. Miyamoto's perfectly developed sage body, coupled with the blessings of other bloodlines, can be said to be a weakened Ōtsutsuki. However, under such circumstances, driving Susanoo will still be painful. One can imagine, what does it mean to drive Susanoo before owning Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? You understand? Miyamoto is not one to wait, watching Uchiha Sasuke's huge Susanoo. Thorn. In an instant, Miyamoto's figure rushed out, making seals with both hands. Lightning-style false darkness. Boom. The brilliant thunderbolt javelin spit out from Miyamoto's mouth, tearing the air, under Sasuke's gaze.
Bang bang, hit Susanoo head-on, although he couldn't break through the defense, but the huge impact still made Uchiha Sasuke's Susanoo back a little distance. After receiving Miyamoto's lightning-style false darkness, Uchiha Sasuke finally got used to the ultimate pain from the very beginning, looking at Miyamoto. Miyamoto Musashi, to die. With a ferocious face and bloody tears in both eyes, Chakra urged Susanoo's hands, a bow 977 arrows appeared, pulled the bowstring, and when he was about to shoot at Miyamoto, a sneer appeared on Miyamoto's face, and his hands were knotted. Print. Wood-style wood dragon technique. Boom. A towering giant tree grew rapidly from the ground, twisted, turned into a wooden dragon, and faced Uchiha Sasuke, and the wooden dragon rushed towards him directly. Bang bang bang. The air wave generated by the collision of the two behemoths directly made Uchiha Obito and Tsunade, who were watching without making a move, couldn't help but take a few steps back. The smoke clears. Huge Susanoo, already entwined by Miyamoto's wooden dragon. Look precarious. The huge chakra supporting Susanoo was quickly consumed under the absorption of the wooden dragon. Miyamoto looked at Uchiha Sasuke's appearance, with a serious face on his face, without speaking, raised his hand, and slowly grasped it into a fist. With Miyamoto's grasp, the wooden dragon's body began to shrink.
The sound of screaming in extreme pain. Uchiha Sasuke is really feeling extremely uncomfortable now. His body seems to have a force that is constantly squeezing his body, trying to crush him. Through the gap between Susanoo and Wood Dragon, BHBB, Nami Sasuke looked up at Miyamoto. It's been like this, Miyamoto Musashi, a guy like you doesn't understand. The power of Uchiha. The body stood up slowly, the huge chakra on Uchiha Sasuke's body swelled, and the pupil power was stimulated again. Susanoo, who had been ruthlessly strangled by the wooden dragon, stood up again in a short moment.
The shape changes again. Uchiha Sasuke's Susanoo puts on the Uchiha Sasuke helmet directly under the urging of the terrifying pupil power and chakra, who is so excited that he is desperately trying to extract it. A substantial sharp blade appeared in Shuzuo's hand, and after cutting off the wooden dragon's shackles, his figure continued to rise. Mature Susanoo. Susanoo, who grew to a mature body at one time, gave Miyamoto some side ears. Should it be said that it is the reincarnation of Indra Chakra? This kind of talent is indeed very strong. In Susanoo's technique, Uchiha Sasuke's talent is absolutely strong.
Looking at the tall and mature Susanoo, Miyamoto had a smile on his face.
The stronger it is used, the faster it will be blinded. Uchiha Sasuke did this, and Miyamoto was quite satisfied. The mature Susanoo gave Uchiha Sasuke considerable confidence. He raised his eyes to look at Miyamoto, his pupil power was crazily passing away, but he replenished under his will, maintaining the consumption of Susanoo. Uchiha Sasuke did not hesitate at all. The blade of Susanoo lifted up directly, and slashed towards Ben. Boom. Uchiha Sasuke, who cut the knife marks on the ground, began to look for Miyamoto with a pair of eyes, and at the same time, the sword of Susanoo was ready to deal a fatal blow to Miyamoto. Wood style. Suddenly, the figure of Miyamoto jumped out from the mud behind Susanoo, making seals with both hands.
The flower and tree world is coming. Boom. Trees as thick as Susanoo's waist drilled out of the ground, directly surrounding Uchiha Sasuke's Susanoo in the center. Swish swish swish. After growing out, they didn't spread their branches and leaves. These trees, like flexible whips, directly wrapped around Susanoo's hands and imprisoned Susanoo's legs at the same time. The rest of the giant trees didn't give Uchiha Sasuke any time to breathe, and under his astonished eyes, they all bombarded Susanoo's body. Susanoo, who was not very stable, just withstood the first wave of attacks, and was shattered under the horrified eyes of Uchiha Sasuke. Bang 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 bang. After the giant tree covered the ground of the scene, several huge flowers bloomed and sprinkled poisonous pollen. Miyamoto, who was the caster himself, had nothing to do. His body flashed a few times, and he came directly to Susanoo's head. After Susanoo was broken, the impact of the feedback directly made Uchiha Sasuke unconscious on the spot. If it wasn't for his weak breathing, Miyamoto would think that he killed Uchiha Sasuke on the spot. It seems that we can only go here, Uchiha Sasuke. While speaking, Miyamoto raised his finger, and a sharp piece of wood was about to penetrate Uchiha Sasuke's head fiercely. Swish. Space distortion. Uchiha Obito came to the side of the unconscious Uchiha Sasuke, using Uchiha Sasuke's grass pheasant sword, cut off the tip. While activating Kamui and taking away Uchiha Sasuke, after taking a deep look at Miyamoto, he didn't say anything for a while. Leave directly. Musashi. How is it? After Tsunade rushed over, he asked. Where's Uchiha Sasuke? Shaking his head, Miyamoto said. That Uchiha Madara, saved. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Tsunade frowned, and didn't say much. She always felt a little strange that Uchiha Madara seemed to be avoiding direct combat. On the way back, Miyamoto directly turned on the perception of Kagura's mind eye with the maximum range, and after hiding in the Kamui space, he couldn't perceive chakra anymore. But when it comes, Uchiha Sasuke will be able to perceive what Miyamoto left on Uchiha Sasuke, and then Miyamoto will be temporarily on leave.
Going back this time, Uchiha Obito, no accident, will transplant Uchiha Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan to Sasuke, even if it is not good, but as long as it is transplanted, it will mark that Uchiha Sasuke has the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan.
Copy, that's it. Chapter 95 Chasing Down Sasuke 1/5. Chapter 95. Master Tsunade. After entering the Land of Fire, Miyamoto stopped and spoke suddenly. Tsunade, not knowing why, turned and looked at Miyamoto. What's the matter? Musashi, you should go back quickly now, and it's time to prepare. Hearing Tsunade's words, the camp approved little by little. I understand this, but, Master Tsunade, I have a very important matter that must be dealt with. 1. Once it's over, I'll be back as soon as possible. He frowned slightly, looked at Miyamoto and thought for a while. Tsunade was a little worried. Need help? I can accompany you, go with me. You're now the top combat power here. But the opponent is like that, it is best not to take risks. Looking at Tsunade, Miyamoto knew that Tsunade understood what his purpose was, and nodded.
I understand, at most half a month, I will definitely come back. Swish. The body disappeared directly, leaving quickly. Miyamoto went towards the host spores on the body of Uchiha Sasuke that had appeared.
Tsunade glanced at the direction Miyamoto was leaving, then turned around and headed towards Konoha. What Miyamoto does, she is quite at ease, trusting Miyamoto, she will not doubt it. Even knowing that Miyamoto went to find Uchiha Sasuke and Uchiha Madara this time, Tsunade was more worried about Miyamoto's safety. Don't let anything happen. Somewhere in the secret base of the Akatsuki organization, Uchiha Sasuke was lying on the bed, his eyes were empty and lost their luster. Uchiha Obito looked at Uchiha Sasuke with a strange expression on his face and then said, "Can we start?" Hearing Uchiha Obito's words, he nodded, and Uchiha Sasuke said, "Let's start." In my mind, the appearance of Miyamoto and Itachi with various emotions. Surgery, begin. Uchiha Sasuke, literally, embarks on an open-air journey. Back to Konoha, when leaving, Tsunade left quietly. After coming back, there are naturally some important people who know about it. Konoha Gate, led by Utatane Kaharu and Mitokado Homura, Konoha's senior ninjas, basically all came. Oh, it's quite complete. Seeing these people waiting, Tsunade smiled slightly and said, "Just right, now it's time to hold a meeting, this 5-star meeting. A lot of things have happened, next, the war is coming."
Hearing the word, war, the faces of all the people present were serious, and they immediately started to move. The operation of the whole village, under the order of Tsunade, directly entered the state of combat readiness. Konoha Conference Room. A group of Konoha Jonin and individual Chunin, except for Kakashi who led the class out, are all here. Tsunade sat on the main seat, and in a few words, he explained the appearance of Uchiha Madara during the 5-cage talks, and then glanced at Mitokado Homura and Utatane Kaharu. There is one more thing I need to tell you. The head of the Root Organization, Shimura Danzo, led the Jonin of the Root Organization to assassinate me when I returned to the village. As soon as Tsunade finished speaking, the air in the meeting room became silent. Hong and the others had their eyes shining, and didn't say much. After a while of silence, Mitokado Homura and Utatane Kaharu spoke solemnly.
Really, Tsunade, Danzo assassinated you. He has fought for Konoha all his life, and the assassination of Hokage doesn't seem like Danzo can do it. This is pure deceit. What kind of person Danzo is, those present here have already known, and basically all know.
Boom. Hitting the table with a fist, Tsunade's face was full of murderous intent, and he looked at the two of them. If it wasn't for Musashi, I might be dead already. Do you think I'm joking about something like this? Now that the battle is imminent, I don't have so much time to explain too much to you, all in all.
Danzo, the assassination failed and has been executed. Tough to the extreme, with killing intent and anger, Tsunade at this moment is a raging lioness. Hearing Tsunade's words and feeling Tsunade's killing intent, Mitokado Homura and Utatane Kaharu looked at each other, then looked away, and didn't say anything more. Danzo, if you die, my lord. You mean, my family. Red's voice suddenly sounded, and everyone's eyes were fixed. Everyone knew that Miyamoto hadn't come back. Combined with the meaning of Tsunade just now. Miyamoto is dead. Facing everyone's eyes, Tsunade calmed down his anger, and said,
"Asking for flowers. He's fine." Uchiha Sasuke also showed up later. After being seriously injured and leaving the field, I issued an order. Now Musashi is on the way to kill Sasuke. After saying this, ignoring other people's reactions, Tsunade looked at everyone. That's the end of this matter. Now everything has to be pushed back. The first is to prepare for the war, and the second is to rebuild the village. Shikamaru stays, and the others go down. Stand by at any time. In Hokage's office, Nara Shikamaru did not look lazy, but listened to the task given by Tsunade very seriously, preparing for the battle. War. When it comes to war, there will be no ease. It is for this reason that everyone is very clear in their hearts that it is uncertain how many people will die next. Point 0. Nara Shikamaru, who once swore that she would never hurt her companions again, knows how important her burden is. That's all. After Tsunade gave the order, he handed the task scroll in his hand to Nara Shikamaru, with a solemn face. Shikamaru, you should be clear, right? How important this mission is. Seriously, Nara Shikamaru nodded, looking at Tsunade. I know, Tsunade-sama, please rest assured. Having said that, Nara Shikamaru paused and asked. Master Tsunade, does it need to be hidden from Naruto about Musashi chasing and killing Sasuke? If Naruto knew, there might be some problems. Nara Shikamaru's words made Tsunade pause. The problem arises here, if Uzumaki Naruto finds out that Miyamoto went after Sasuke, maybe there will be some troublesome things. After pondering for a moment, Tsunade's gaze became firm. Uchiha Sasuke broke into the 5 Kages convention, and at that time, the killer was already killed. He has no chance of turning back this matter.
There's no need to hide it, Naruto has the right to know about it. If something goes wrong, let Naruto come to me. I gave the order, and Musashi did it because of my order. Hearing Tsunade's resolute words, Shikamaru nodded.
I see. Chapter 96 Get Eternal I 2/5. Chapter 96. One day after entering combat readiness, Konoha. The new generation of Xiaoqiang, everyone including Hinata and Sai, gathered in one place. The Kakashi class, who did not bring Sasuke back, has returned, and Uzumaki Naruto calls everyone and has something to say.
About Sasuke. I want him to be handed over to me. Uzumaki Naruto turned to the crowd with seriousness on his face. His words can only be killed by me, and you can match the current Sasuke's words. Uzumaki Naruto hadn't finished speaking, but Nara Shikamaru, who had participated in the preparation meeting, hesitated. After a moment of silence, Nara Shikamaru said, Naruto, there is one thing I think I should tell you.
Nara Shikamaru's words made everyone present look at Nara Shikamaru in a blink of an eye. Under everyone's gaze. Musashi. On the way back from 5th generation, 823, and Musashi, Sasuke attacked them, although it was unsuccessful, but the 5th generation ordered Musashi 11. Pursue Uchiha Sasuke. Silence. The audience was silent, no one spoke. It took a long time before there was some reaction. Uzumaki Naruto showed emotion on his face. Shikamaru. You just said. Musashi went after Sasuke. Seeing Uzumaki Naruto's reaction, Nara's heart sank slightly. Sure enough, upon hearing the news, Uzumaki Naruto, no, the 2 of Kakashi's class. The expressions of Haruno Sakura and Uzumaki Naruto both changed.
Everyone knows Miyamoto's strength. If he chases and kills Sasuke, there are 9 out of 10 chances. Uchiha Sasuke will die. This problem was quite clear to everyone present. Hearing Uzumaki Naruto's question, Nara Shikamaru nodded. Master Tsunade, order it yourself. Clenching his fists tightly, Uzumaki Naruto is no longer the impulsive brat he used to be. After hearing the news, he has a solemn expression on his face.
I know. But, if Sasuke is concerned, I will definitely bring him back. It doesn't matter if it's a person, or a corpse. Absolute. Do what you say, this is my way of ninja.
In the shadow of the big tree, Ben's face is calm. Looking at the quiet entrance in front of him, Miyamoto rolled his eyes, and could clearly see that Uchiha Sasuke's chakra was inside. After glancing at the entrance, Miyamoto raised his hand and threw away the white Zetsu avatar that had been killed. It's almost time. After you get it quickly. While speaking, the figure of Miyamoto has entered the entrance. 10 minutes later footsteps came, and Uchiha Sasuke, whose eyes were wrapped in gauze, could not help turning his head slightly when he heard the footsteps. He didn't speak, although his eyes can't see, but Uchiha Sasuke can still sense some things, such as the familiar chakra. Miyamoto's chakra, he is quite familiar with. When sensing it, Uchiha Sasuke thought about running away, but gave up. Miyamoto has already come here, which proves that running away is useless. Well, it seems that you have only hit the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and successfully replaced it. Watching Uchiha Sasuke's reaction, Miyamoto already knew, he knew he was coming, no nonsense. Uchiha Sasuke. Congratulations, you have obtained the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Getting closer to Uchiha Sasuke, Miyamoto felt his tension. Standing casually in front of Uchiha Sasuke, Miyamoto sneered. If I want to kill you, you have no chance to live until now. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Uchiha Sasuke's face froze. Then, what do you want to do here? He raised his hand and threw out a scroll, which was accurately caught by Uchiha Sasuke, who turned to Miyamoto with a puzzled expression. This is the true truth of Itachi's mission. After your eyes are healed, you can see for yourself. So, your brother will always be your brother. Compared to Itachi, you are really nothing worth mentioning. With a fixed gaze, Miyamoto's figure came to Uchiha Sasuke's side in an instant, with one hand on Uchiha Sasuke's shoulder. You are destroying what your brother guarded with his life. While saying this, in Miyamoto's mind, a familiar voice sounded. Copy selection option 1. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Choice 2. Indra Chakra. Choice 3. Inferno-style Amaterasu. For the current eyes, only one type of pupil can be housed in one eye. Miyamoto's eyes flickered for 3 lucrative copy options, and then he directly decided in his heart.
Choose 1, choose 2, copy it. Forget about Amaterasu's pupil technique. Compared to the most suitable pupil technique for him, Amaterasu seems dispensable. Copied Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. In Miyamoto's eyes, Mangekyo Sharingan appeared involuntarily, adding a mysterious purple light to the original pattern. Totally different feeling. Because it has been used several times, it feels that the eyes have some discomfort, and it completely disappears. Not only that, Miyamoto can clearly feel the terrifying pupil power that can be restored in his eyes. At the same time, it doesn't feel any different from when I merged with Ashura's chakra. Indra's chakra did not merge into Miyamoto's body, but into a pair of Miyamoto's eyes. Miyamoto does not know what benefits it will have.
Snapped. Slapping Miyamoto's hand away, Uchiha Sasuke stood up. Since you didn't come to kill me, you have achieved your goal, then, let's go. Looking at Uchiha Sasuke, Miyamoto blinked, turn around and leave. Uchiha Sasuke's Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, unlike his own, takes time to complete. Miyamoto didn't come to kill him, so there was no need to stay here. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, after planning for so long, finally got it. Next, all Miyamoto needs to do is to wait quietly for the arrival of the 4th Ninja World War. After this Ninja World War is over, it means that the ninja world will enter a period of peace. As for what will happen in the future, Miyamoto doesn't know. After all, Miyamoto has only watched the finale of Hokage 3.5, and has almost forgotten a lot in these years. But for the crucial 4th Ninja World War, Miyamoto still remembers some situations. Uchiha Madara, the ninja Shura, Miyamoto has wanted to fight for a long time. At night, Miyamoto returned to Konoha quietly. Instead of going home, he came directly to Tsunade's temporary office. Crash. Opening the curtain, Miyamoto walked in. Tsunade and Hong were discussing things. When Miyamoto walked in, Tsunade showed a surprise on his face. Finally back. It has been about a week since Miyamoto went out to do errands. He exchanged a glance with Hong and responded to Tsunade. Miyamoto came to Tsunade's table. This piece of information obtained by accident. Chapter 97. One step ahead 3/5 Chapter 97 Boom. Punch on the table. 100,000 white zetsu. Tsunade was unbelievable in his heart, and looked at Miyamoto in shock, his hands trembling a little. Musashi, are you sure? With 100,000 white zetsu, there is no need to fight this war, and we are already doomed. Hong and Shizune next to them looked at Miyamoto and Tsunade with serious faces and didn't interrupt. White zetsu, they know it. After all, they are one of the only remaining members of the Akatsuki organization. Even if it is not the strength of the combat department, it is definitely not too bad. If there are 100,000. Don't prepare for war. Everyone sees the last time to cheer up and wait for death. Hearing Tsunade's words, Miyamoto nodded and said directly. Calm down, Master Tsunade. It's not yet the time of despair. 100,000 white zetsu is just a rough number. I think it should be more than that. But there is no need to worry so much. The fighting power of these white zetsu is uneven. I have a general feeling. Of all the white zetsu that have been produced, not one chakra in the body has reached Chunin. War, we will definitely win. Looking at Tsunade, Miyamoto said. On the battlefield, fighter planes are ever changing, maybe there will be some real changes, and Miyamoto can't guarantee that something will happen. Whether he can win or not, Miyamoto thinks, it's better not to rely too much on the plot and so on, it's better to strengthen one's own strength. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Tsunade calmed down and nodded. You're right. However, this information must be handed over to the other few shadows as soon as possible, and the running-in period of the joint army is about to begin. Musashi, take a good rest these 2 days. Go ahead with the troops and bring the joint venture food and grass. After you are ready, you will lead the team to Cloud Shinobi Village. Hearing the words, the truth. Yes, I see. On the way home, Miyamoto put his arms around his red waist, with a happy expression on his face. So happy, it proves that your plan this time has been completed very well. The current Miyamoto is even taller than Hong's. Feeling Miyamoto's embrace, Hong smiled. However, thanks to you, you were able to find such information in the hands of that legendary figure, sure enough. It's my man, ah, suddenly, with a small exclamation, Hong was held in Miyamoto's arms directly. Miyamoto raised his mouth and said. Go home, show you and Hinata what I got when I went out this time. A smile appeared on Miyamoto's face, and he rushed out in an instant, heading home at an extremely fast speed. When I got home, the house was still brightly lit. The two walked into the living room and found that Hinata was polishing the red armor that Miyamoto made himself. Looking up and seeing Miyamoto and Hong coming back together, his face was full of joy. Miyamoto-kun. In an instant, Hinata rushed into Miyamoto's arms, holding Miyamoto tightly without letting go. The same Miyamoto is also hugging Hinata, and the two are hugging quietly in this living room, smiling all over their faces and not disturbing. In the living room, Miyamoto sat face to face with Hong and Hinata. Sharingan. Raising his eyes, he opened his 3-tomo Sharingan for a split second, and then the 3-tomo spun to form Miyamoto's eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. The eyes are still red, but the difference is that in Miyamoto's eye sockets, the Mangekyo symbol is not black as before, but blue with a faint light. Quite mysterious. This is my eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. From now on, there is no possibility of blindness.
Miyamoto said with a smile on his face, with a hint of emotion on his face. And because of this reason, I can use the pupil technique that resides in my eyes, which means my strength is at least 10 times what it was before. 10 times the current strength. In the case of turning on the augmentation of the right eye and fully acting on him, Miyamoto's current self-amplification limit is 10 times.
This limit is still working. Miyamoto can feel, because of Indra and Ashura's chakra, his eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, at the moment of getting it, there is a feeling similar to the previous Tenseigan's feel movement. The feeling of breakthrough. Slow break. This should be his own evolution towards Rinnegan. Miyamoto thinks so, but this time, it should take a lot. But he doesn't have to wait, he can just copy it later. A copy opportunity will be restored immediately, and at least 3 copy opportunities are guaranteed during the war. Once, copy Uchiha Sasuke's Goyu Rinnegan. Once, used on Uchiha Madara's body, duplicating the 10 tails in his body. Last time, used on Ōtsutsuki Kaguya, duplicating her. Immortal. What does Ōtsutsuki Kaguya have that Miyamoto covets? Nothing else but Ōtsutsuki Kaguya's immortality. As for Ōtsutsuki Kaguya, do you want to pick up girls? The kind who like to be a father. Red and Hinata smiled, looked at Miyamoto, and said at the same time. The plan worked, dear. 4 days later, Miyamoto stayed in Ruanru Township for 4 days, and finally received Tsunade's order. It's time to lead the team to Cloud Shinobi Village. Although Miyamoto has no desire for power, but this is just as a card to lead Konoha's ninjas to Cloud Shinobi Village. No big deal, so he said yes. Yakushi, that's all right. Looking at himself in the mirror, he was wearing a red 557 armor, with his long hair hanging behind him. Hockey. Be confident. Be radiant. Taking out a pair of black soft silk gloves and putting them on, Miyamoto turned his head and looked at his side, Hinata and Hong, who were dressed in ordinary clothes and looked like wives. Let's go. Walking over and putting his arms around the two, Miyamoto said softly. After this battle is over, we'll get married. Sensing the sincerity in Miyamoto's tone, both Hong and Hinata blushed. Lowering their heads, the two nodded at the same time. Even Hong, who is generous, is a little embarrassed when it comes to getting married. After all, there is only one time in a woman's life. Marriage is a very important thing. Miyamoto-kun, be careful on the road. Hinata reminded Miyamoto. She and Hong belong to the wrong group in the back. Hinata, as the eldest daughter of the Hyuga clan, will lead the ninjas of the Hyuga clan, and Hong, as one of the 3 colors, also has similar tasks. With so many ninjas, it is naturally impossible to pass them all at once. Hong went there as the leader of the 3rd batch of main forces. Kakashi is the 4th group, and the 2nd group is led by Tsunade, with Gokage as the conductor, so it is natural to arrive early to discuss some matters. Chapter 98 Arriving at Cloud Shinobi Village 4/5 Chapter 98. Arriving at the entrance of the village, on a simple platform, Tsunade is admonishing the advanced troops this time, with a solemn face. The coalition forces are destined to have frictions. Before joining forces, the 5 Kages must restrain the ninjas in their own villages, and the first troops will choose more ninjas who have no life and death hatred with other ninja villages. After all this is done, whether the occurrence of conflicts can be suppressed depends on the means of the leader. When Tsunade finished speaking, he saw Miyamoto's get come, and nodded. Standing on the stage, Miyamoto looked at the 2,000 people in the vanguard. Miyamoto took a step forward and glanced at everyone. Although there is no power exuding from his body, the shadow of the famous tree of a person has a kind of bearing just by standing there. A convincing demeanor. Then, let's go. Tsunade and the others, who originally thought Miyamoto would say something, couldn't help being stunned. Looking at Miyamoto, who took the lead to leave, the corners of their mouths twitched. Well, as far as Musashi is concerned, it's not surprising to do so. Although the march of the army is not as fast as when one is alone, it is still a ninja army after all, so it can't go anywhere slowly. A week. Because of carrying a large amount of supplies, it took 3 days to arrive in a hurry, but it took a week to arrive at Cloud Shinobi Village. At the entrance of Cloud Shinobi Village, in charge of receiving Konoha's troops, are Raikage's secretary Mabui, and Killer Bee's 3 disciples Samui, Karui, and Laomoi. Konoha's troops are here. Seeing a huge army approaching from a distance, Mabui's face was serious, and he glanced at the 3 of Samui next to him. Don't cause trouble. That Uchiha Sasuke is one thing, the person who came this time is another, do you understand? Hearing Mabui's words, the 3 people behind her nodded. Yes, we understand. After the words fell, the eyes of the 4 people have already looked at the direction they came from. The person in the front was wearing a large red armor, with a taidao behind his back, and his loose hair was constantly flying because of the wind. Just watching, the minds of Mabui and the others were a little shaken, but they soon came back to their senses. He's strong backquote. Asterisk the beauty of the European school. Samui showed a dignified color on her face, and looked at Miyamoto, who was in the front of Konoha, who was approaching. Just getting close gives people an illusion. This man is different from any man I've seen before. When Samuel spoke, Miyamoto brought Konoha's advanced troops to the gate of Cloud Shinobi village. He glanced at Mabui calmly, and then at the three of Samui. Konoha, Miyamoto Musashi. The calm words, the calm tone, the expressionless face, and the inadvertent sharpness of the eyes, all reveal the strength of Miyamoto. You've worked hard all the way, Miyamoto-sama. Mabui was under a lot of pressure, but he still said politely. Everyone from Konoha, I will leave it to Samuel and the others to take care of the arrangement, please, Mrs. Reikage. His brows trembled slightly. As the team leader, it was normal for 4th Reikage to see him. Nodding his head, Miyamoto left behind Mabui without saying a word. As for Konoha's advanced troops, it was naturally handed over to the three of Samuel, since it is impossible for any accident to happen. The battle is imminent. If at this juncture, 4th Reikage let Konoha's people have an accident, he knows better than Miyamoto how troublesome it will be. After Miyamoto left, Omoi swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and wiped the cold sweat on his forehead.
Good hockey. Is this the key of a top ninja? Before, because Konoha beat Uzumaki Naruto, who was suffering instead of Uchiha Sasuke, he thought that Konoha's ninjas did not have the hockey of Cloud Shinobi Village's ninjas. As the saying goes, there is no harm without comparison. Originally, Omoi thought that the ninjas in Cloud Shinobi Village were quite hockey, especially Reikage, who was even more hockey. However, after comparing with Miyamoto just now, Omoi always has a feeling. Cloud Shinobi Village is probably not hockey, but simply Mang. It should be Mang. Followed Azabui to meet 4th Reikage. After handing over the documents, Azabui arranged a residence for Miyamoto and left. I took a look at my residence. Although Miyamoto didn't have any requirements for the residence, Cloud Shinobi Village couldn't treat Miyamoto badly. The residence arranged for Miyamoto was top-notch. Of course, it is impossible for everyone to be treated like this. Only the leaders of the 4 major countries and the country of Iron have such special treatment. It has nothing to do with fairness or not, strength and status determine everything. For Miyamoto, practice is now optional. After tidying up his things a little bit and changing his clothes, Miyamoto opened the door and prepared to take a stroll in Wei-in village. Crunch. Just as Miyamoto opened the door and came out, the room next to Miyamoto also opened the door, and a figure came out. When seeing the other party, Miyamoto was stunned for a moment. Tamari. I didn't expect that you would lead the team here. Seeing Miyamoto, Tamari was also taken aback for a moment, and then spoke. Miyamoto nodded at Temari's words, closed the door, looked at Temari's appearance. Miyamoto asked casually. Go out for a walk. Dazed for a moment, Temari's face was slightly rosy. She lowered her head, a little shy. Well, okay. What can I do? Miyamoto was stunned for a moment, and when he saw Temari's blushing face, his face froze slightly. This is your sister. I misunderstood. How could I go shopping with Hinata and the unexpected woman? Seeing Tamari like this, the corner of Miyamoto's mouth twitched, and he turned around. Let's go. It smells so good. The customs of Cloud Shinobi Village are completely different from those of Konoha. Generally speaking, Cloud Shinobi Village is a village with relatively strong folk customs. After all, among the 5 hidden villages, Cloud Shinobi Village is a proper Wu Nuo-Chian fighting faction. So the style of Cloud Shinobi Village is more or less different from other villages. The customs here are a bit like Aw-san. Aw-san with muscles but no brains. Cough. Walking on the street, looking at the people around, Miyamoto had a faint smile on his face.
Come to this world. Unconsciously, it has been so many years.
Miyamoto's murmur was naturally noticed by Tamari on the side, and he was a little confused. What are you saying? Hearing Temari's question, Miyamoto had a rare smile on her face. I just remembered something and nothing. After saying this, Miyamoto walked forward without stopping. Following behind Miyamoto, Tamari was slightly puzzled and blushed. Strange guy. It looks good when he smiles. Chapter 99. What happened there? While Miyamoto and Tamari were walking awkwardly on the road, a lot of people gathered in front of a stage on the street of Cloud Shinobi Village.
I don't know. Let's go and see. Temari's question was also Miyamoto's doubt. He glanced at Temari's curious look, hesitated for a moment, and said something. Seeing Miyamoto's appearance, Tamari had a smile on his face, without hesitation. Keep up. Tamari still felt Miyamoto's vague care, but didn't say it clearly. She does have a good impression of Miyamoto, and with more contacts, her affection for Miyamoto is increasing day by day. Following behind Miyamoto, Tamari can't help but have some memories. Tamari, the task of leading the advance troops this time is entrusted to you. Gaara handed over the quest scroll, and Tamari had some doubts. Why am I here? Others should be able to do this task. I am your bodyguard. Tamari and Konkuro are Gaara's most trusted people, and the guard work has always been done by them. Looking at Tamari, Gaara's eyes flickered slightly. This mission is a must for you. Recovering from the memory, Tamari understands why Gaara asked her to come, this mission. That's great. The two came to the front of the stage. Miyamoto's face twitched slightly after hearing the lame rap. Looking at the stage, it is none other than one of the 240 important protection targets of this war, 8 Tails Jinchuriki, Killer Bee. Who is that? Not to mention Miyamoto, even Tamari has black lines all over his face. She really can't appreciate Killer Bee's art. Hearing Tamari's words, Miyamoto turned his head. That's 4th Hokage's younger brother, 8 Tails Jinchuriki, Killer Bee, one of the protection targets of this war. Hearing Miyamoto's words, Tamari turned his head. Is that the target of protection? Suddenly felt? The future is uncertain. Hearing this, Miyamoto smiled slightly, without saying anything. Killer Bee is a talent. The days that followed basically went like this. Miyamoto couldn't handle trivial things like preparations before the war, but after coming to Cloud Shinobi Village, he stayed in Cloud Shinobi Village for the time being. Time flies. 2 months later. Almost all the main forces have already entered the Land of Thunder. With so many ninja troops gathering, various things happen almost every day. However, simply because of batch by batch running in, there were conflicts, but no battles occurred. In this case, the pre-war preparations were almost complete, and the scouts kept sending back news. The smell of war is getting stronger and stronger. In such an atmosphere, Miyamoto also gradually entered the state, and gradually corrected his mentality. Completely entered the combat readiness mentality. During this time, no one came to bother Miyamoto, even Hinata and Hong, who were quite worried, and Tamari, didn't bother him. The will of the coalition forces is very firm, but a firm will cannot make the coalition forces less afraid of the legend. Ninja Shira, Uchiha Madara beginning with Sengoku, together with first Hokage Senju Hashirama, the man who created today's era deserves such awe. Invisibly, people gave Miyamoto high hopes. Although such high hopes did not make Miyamoto do anything, it made his sweetheart worry about him, so that they didn't bother Miyamoto in the next few days. Early in the morning, the smell of war reached its peak. Miyamoto looked at his small notebook in the room, and then put it away, with a dignified face. Uchiha Madara. In the state of impure world reincarnation, Chakra is infinite, and cannot be killed unless it is sealed. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Rinnegan, plus wood style. The hard nut to crack, the greatest enemy of all time. In terms of importance, Miyamoto attaches more importance to Uchiha Madara than Ōtsutsuki Kaguya. After all, Ōtsutsuki Kaguya, who has been sealed for more than 1,000 years, even though the power chakra is above Uchiha Madara, has been sealed for too long after all. Has been a lot dull, so Kaguya is not as good as Uchiha in Miyamoto's view. Should say Ōtsutsuki Kaguya, who needs support from Black Zetsu, is not as good as Uchiha Madara. Bang bang bang. There was a knock on the door. Miyamoto frowned slightly, got up and opened the door.
Hinata was wearing a vest with the word, forehead protector, on her body, and said solemnly BHBF. Miyamoto-kun, Shizune Senpai has called everyone. Hearing this, Miyamoto knew. The pre-war mobilization is here, and the fourth battle is about to start. Without the command room, Miyamoto had already chosen what he was going to do before. Hinata and Hong, don't worry, Hong's strength is considered strong at the Kage level, and Hinata is not bad either.
The White Zetsu coalition forces are not to be feared.
But he still plans to go to the front line first, with Hinata and Hong. And Tsunade and others seem to have the same plan, wanting Miyamoto to be on the front line, firing the first bomb to calm the morale of the army.
Huge troops, after assigning their belongings, gathered in a huge square. Ninja Alliance. In addition to special troops, such as detection troops, medical troops, etc., there are a total of 5 troops in battle. The first unit, the Middle Distance Joint Army Unit. Composed of ninjas who specialize in concealed weapons. The second unit, Melee Joint Army Unit. Responsible for beheading a large number of enemies and fighting at the forefront of the team. The third unit, Combat Close to Medium Range Combined Army Units. Responsible for protracted warfare. Fourth Army, Long Distance Combat Combined Army Unit. At the same time, it is responsible for supporting the troops on the front line and the rear. Fifth Force. Combat Special Forces. A unit composed of all samurai or ninjas who use special ninjutsu and fighting methods. After the troop distribution was completed, everyone looked towards the high platform above, and the leaders of each troop had already appeared. And Gaara, who is the captain, then made the speech that Miyamoto remembered after preventing the chaos. Listening to Gaara's speech, Miyamoto, standing at the forefront of the second unit, followed by Hong and Hinata, couldn't help but smile. Jinchuriki, once cynical, have grown up. After the mobilization, the scene of the 5 major troops mobilizing and 80,000 people running together is quite spectacular. After traveling for a certain distance, the 5 major troops are divided directly. The second unit, where Miyamoto and others belonged, shot straight into the front line. During the march, Miyamoto didn't say a word. It is very important to win the first battle and stabilize the morale of the army. That's why Miyamoto chose to come to the second team. After arriving at the battlefield, Huang Tu, the captain, glanced at the vast prairie, and couldn't help frowning.
Those who perceive are powerful, perceive them, and others conduct ambushes. The specific situation will be solved in detail. All action. This war is a tough battle, and the strategy will gradually lose its effect. Simply put, Lois does not make any elaborate arrangements at all. After Wangtu's order came down, all the people started to act. And Miyamoto, still standing in place. Chapter 100 The first time using the perfect body Susanoo 1/5. Chapter 100. Coming. After waiting for a few minutes, Miyamoto suddenly spoke with a solemn face. Red. Hinata. Be careful. After warning Hong and Hinata beside him, Miyamoto stepped forward a few steps. Just received a notification from the Ministry of Intelligence that Wangtu and Haitu, father and daughter, are about to form seals to force out the white group avatar that is prowling underground. Let me come. Miyamoto opened his mouth and said, and immediately came to the front of the two, his face was calm. At the request of Master Hokage, this first battle must be.
Stimulate the morale of the army. After saying this, Miyamoto stood up directly, made mudras with both hands, and chakra erupted on his body. Earth-style digging up the ground. With Miyamoto's actions, a huge volcano rises from the ground. Immediately after the shock, like a volcanic eruption, countless white zetsu spewed out from the crater. Many. Seeing such a large number of white zetsu, Black Earth was shocked. I'm afraid there are tens of thousands. Swish, Miyamoto's figure rushed out in an instant, with a calm expression and extremely fast speed. Leave the frontal enemies to me, and leave the rest to you. While speaking, Miyamoto's hands were already knotted, and he flew up. The eternal Mangekyo Sharingan in his pupils had formed, and the golden chakra burst out crazily. Perfect body Susanoo. Boom. With a huge body, comparable to a mountain peak, the golden light shines on the entire battlefield, and everyone is shocked to see the huge existence in the center of the battlefield. A smile appeared on Miyamoto's face, and he looked down at the white zetsu army, holding his arms, and Susanoo at his feet, raised the knife in his hand, and made a gesture of drawing it. Jung. A huge, sharp, incomparable and terrifying sword energy swept out in an instant, directly forming the real Minister of Slashing. Rumble. The sword energy is invincible, and it directly swept away all the white zetsu in front of Miyamoto. Not only that, this unrivaled sword energy directly cut off the giant mountain in the direction of advancement. The huge air wave not only lifted white zetsu into the air, but also made it difficult for the ninja allied forces behind Miyamoto to open their eyes. After Miyamoto completed a blow, the people present were in disbelief. Look at the back of Susanoo, who was perfect that day. Such power. Is that man really a ninja? Isn't he a god? Can win. After the shock, everyone's faces showed excitement, the confusion in their eyes dissipated, and they moved forward firmly. Hold on. We can win. Come on. Follow in Miyamoto-sama's footsteps and give what you have. Quick action. Hong and Hinata were equally stunned, but both of them knew Miyamoto's secret. After they looked at each other, they rushed out. Hinata, stay with me. Use combo skills. Save chakra. Hinata looked serious, and said, yes, I understand. I'm not very good at fighting. But I won't lose. The battlefield of the second unit, led by Miyamoto, unfolded in an instant. Although Miyamoto killed many enemies with one move, the number was still quite terrifying. The battle of the second army, in fact, was not easy at all. Because this is a doomed protracted battle. After taking a look at the battlefield that had already entered the state, Miyamoto scattered Susanoo, and after seeing that Hong and Hinata were fine, he rushed out. Just relying on physical skills and the sharpness of the chakra Teidao in his hand, Miyamoto was on the battlefield and began to crazily harvest white zetsu's life. This is the first day. The army of Impure World Reincarnation has not come here yet, and they don't want to. Command room. Master Hokage, there is a communication from the front. Suddenly, one of the liaison troops responsible for liaising and transmitting the real-time battle situation spoke up. Hokage, who was discussing the battle situation, and Nara Shikuhisa couldn't help but froze. Fourth Hokage immediately said. Explain. Hearing what Fourth Hokage said, without hesitation, the man spoke directly. The second unit has a good news. Master Miyamoto Musashi, alone, has wiped out more than half of the enemies. For now, the second unit is in a stable situation. Bang. Hearing this news, Tsunade slammed his fist on the table, smiled, and said. Sure enough, this fellow Musashi will not disappoint. Order. Communicate this news to the captains of each unit to boost morale. No matter which world it is, morale is very important in war, which is why Tsunade asked Miyamoto to go to the second unit at the forefront. Even if White Zetsu is not strong, this first good news will definitely stabilize the morale of the army. It didn't take long, the battle situation of the second army was reported to other troops. Asking for flowers. On the first day of the battle, except for the second army fighting the White Zetsu army head-on, other mistakes did not enter the time to officially enter the war. After the second army held off the first wave and killed all the White Zetsu, it was already night time. Today's day's battle did not make Miyamoto feel tired. With Miyamoto's current strength, unless he is fighting against top-level powerhouses, he will not be tired. Of course, it is inevitable that the state will decline. Miyamoto-kun. Have a good rest. Beside the small bonfire at night, Hinata offered her lap pillow, worry written all over her little face. Sensing Hinata's worry, Miyamoto smiled slightly. It's okay. I'm strong. Hong, who was sitting on the other side, had a smile on his face, seeing Miyamoto and Hinata like this, without jealousy. Point 0. But as if thinking of something, Hong suddenly said. Speaking of which, Tamari seems to be in the 4th unit. The atmosphere suddenly became awkward. Hearing the red words, Miyamoto blushed and touched his nose. Who knows? There was a playful smile on Hong's face, and he said pointedly. Really? I thought someone would be very concerned, so I went to ask about it? Hearing this, the gentle Hinata, with a smile on his face, gently stroked Miyamoto's hair without saying a word. How could Hinata and Hong be hidden from Hinata and Hong about Miyamoto? It's just that they didn't say it clearly. It's just that both of them have some curiosity. How did Miyamoto develop with Sanagakure's Tamari? It seems that Miyamoto never had such a chance.
The two expressed considerable curiosity. After noticing Hong and Hinata's curiosity, Ben's eyes flickered. That, me and Tamari, nothing happened yet. Do you remember the battle to regain Kage Gara? That was the first time Tamari and I spoke. Quiet night. Miyamoto told all the confused things between himself and Tamari. He himself has some doubts. When did Tamari have feelings for me?